Hello. Welcome. Okay, let's get settled in and start these board meetings. Whenever you guys are ready. What do we have over there? All right, we'll give you a minute. Okay, we do have a quorum. So Janet, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Paul Campbell.
Here.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez. Here. Ginger Casper. Present. Wywana Montgomery. Here. Renee Porter. Absent. Catherine Steno.
Here.
John Tatum.
Here.
Renee sends her apologies. She had a prior commitment before she joined the board, so I expect her to be here at board meetings going forward. Okay, if you got the agenda in front of you, we'll start with Epic One-on-One, of course. Just to remind everyone, we've changed the agenda, so this is our second board meeting with this new structured agenda. And just to remind everyone, we're going to deal with governance matters first, so we'll go through those here in a second. And then we'll turn it over to the leadership team, and they'll give us some updates on some exciting things. Just a few items in consent docket, and we do have an executive session today. So I'm hoping that it's 30 minutes or less, but once we get closer to that, we'll give you, try to keep you guys informed of the timing of this. Our goal is still 90 minutes to get through these. I think we've been averaging a little bit over 2 hours the first 6 months. But I think we can get that down to 90 minutes. But we got to get the information first, and that's what's important, making the decisions. Okay, governance. So we're going to talk about 4 things. I'm going to invite Secretary Bob Summers up to take us through the first 2. So in governance, we're going to talk about the leadership system overview, and I'm going to explain that here in a second. But then we're going to get in, I'm super excited, and this is the thing, come on up. The thing I'm personally most excited about this board meeting is that we're actually going to get into our first strategic objective, which is Future Ready Graduate definition process. So what does all that mean and why this is important? The second one is this board in the next few months, with the help of in conjunction with Bart and the leadership team, we're going to define what product, for lack of a better term, that we're going to be producing as a school. So what do we want our students to look like, and what are our expectations? Okay, and then we'll go through and have a discussion and consideration and possible action on board member terms, and then we'll get a committee report on that. And then on the leadership and administration, as always, we'll get an update from Bart and his team. Super excited about getting an update on one of our big goals, if you will. So on the Next Step program, Nicole's here, I believe. Is Nicole here, I hope? Yep, there she is. So we'll be getting an update from Nicole and her team on, I'm hoping things concurrent enrollment related and all associated with that. Marty's here also to talk about at-risk programs, so looking forward to seeing how we're helping those kids too. Okay, so with all that said, I'm excited about this meeting, and let's do some good work. Over to you, Bob.
Yeah, I'm already worn out.
Yeah, me too.
And the technology, I thought I talked about that. Didn't matter. How's that work? And superintendent spot, there we go. So the first thing we want to cover, we've got 2 things to cover this evening. First of all, just an overview of the entire process. You've been through most of this, but we're just going to recap it. And then we're going to talk about one specific part of the strategic objectives, and that's the Future Ready Graduate. So here is our simplest layout of what you've been working on. You started with your organization's aspirations. You made those statements. You worked hard at putting those together. And so they're finished. They need measurements, and so they're on your process right now. You're digging through the process of how do you measure these aspirations in a broad, challenging way, and we put those out as the long-term strategy of success. From these aspirations, then you identified a series of what we define as board strategic objectives. There are strategic objectives that you want to make sure you deliver, and you're going to have a part or a major part to play in it. And we're going to see one of those, Future Ready Graduate, come back tonight. You also expected the superintendent to have his own goals for the district itself, and he has established those. And all of these things lead to work. And in the work, we break it down internally to the organization as a series of key processes. And there's too many of them to read. And the key is that this is work that internal to the organization you're doing, like Future Ready Graduate Standards, assessment, learning environment, all the things that are education managed other than governance. And that's what you do, leadership. You're working with the superintendent and yourselves in this. So each one of these gets fleshed out, delivered on a daily basis. If you do them well, you produce a series of predictive process measures that tell you you're making progress. These are long-term aspirations, students being able to succeed in life. If you wait to find out whether the students succeed in life, it's too late to do anything about it if you didn't do it right, correct? Predictive measures give us feedback. In fact, there's some of them that Bart and I have been working on that give feedback on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis.
Can you give the board some examples? Put you on the spot.
Yes, two that are really underway right now. One is mastery on formative assessments. So you got the big state test coming up, but on each one of the standards that leads to that test, we do a formative assessment process internally, and you have that system in place, and then you start monitoring mastery on those formative assessments. Do they absolutely match with the state test results? No. Are they highly predictive? Yes. If kids don't master individual standards, odds are they're not going to pass the test. Another one is graduation. You remember graduation was pretty low. In fact, it was really low. And so one of the goals, superintendent's goals, was to dramatically improve graduation. What's one of the biggest predictors of whether you're going to graduate? Whether you're off cohort, or are you behind the cohort target to be ready to graduate. And so Demick's group is working feverishly and starting to monitor what percentage of the students are off cohort, how many are getting back on schedule. How's that?
But great.
Yeah, so each one of these will have a predictive measure of some sort. We're working on the big picture things that are being driven by these strategic objectives and the superintendent's goals. You don't work on everything at once. And that is the system that you put in place. You've got lots of pieces that are done. 1, 2, 3. This is in process, this is in process, and you are going to work here, and then you got a little bit of cleaning up work to do on the measures. Questions? Comments? Make sense?
I'd like to add a few things. One, this is, ask Bob to do this chart because I want the board to understand that we have a plan in place of taking those aspirations that we did in August, those 5 aspirations, and ensuring that everybody in the organization understands them and that we have projects in place to go and do those things. So this is just a pictorial of that. So I know we work on aspirations and strategic objectives and aspirational metrics and Bart's goals. So there's a lot flying around. It's in Bob's head. That's good. I'm starting to understand it and get a grasp on it too. But this is something we'll need to revisit on more than one occasion just to remind us where we are. Like, you are here. And it's our goal and it's our responsibility to ensure that the work that's being monitored and the work that's being completed by key processes is in line with what those aspirations are. So our job's not to tell them how to do everything, as you know, Bart, but it's just to let you know if you're on track or not, and to let you know if you're getting the outcomes that we want.
Dr.
I would describe it too for the board. Most school boards come to board meetings and react to what the leadership of the school district is presenting to them. You have intentionally sought to lay out what you think the community and the people that you represent want to achieve. You've given good direction to the staff and the team. You've given them latitude to do their best work at what they do, but you're driving the agenda. And I hope you recognize that the work that you put in makes you less reactive and much more proactive about moving the school district forward.
Well said. I love
Make
that
sense?
part. That part is perfect, is this board and this leadership team, we're setting a tone and a direction. And I'm going to say this 1,000 times while I'm here, maybe more than that. And it's going to just take us repeating it and talking about it every day. Like, I'm hoping we're getting to a close point where, Bart, you're literally thinking about epic future-ready grads, and what are you getting up to do today to make sure that happens? I mean, that's the paradigm that our brains have to be in. So we're just trying to, like, Bob and I are just trying to get us all on the same language and a lexicon, and that's not even the right word, but just trying to get us on the same page. So,
It's a 3-syllable word, though. That's it.
well, that's about as much as I can do. Okay. Catherine?
Dr. Savers, on the formative assessments,
Yes.
what is it we will use, or what are we using that is standards-based, OAS standards-based?
Yes, actually, they use Mastery Connect. Mastery Connect was an effort that was put into place by the school district to align the assessments that come out of a major database, to align them perfectly with the Oklahoma standards. And they got a very high predictability in past performance of students that do well on these assessments, do well on the state tests. When they do well on the state tests, there's some prediction that they'll do well in school and in work.
Right.
Does that help?
I know that Alpha Plus here in Oklahoma has the same thing, and they've had excellent success as
Yeah.
well.
There's nothing like, instead of paying attention to how many kids are signing onto the computer and actually saying how many kids are actually learning things and progressing. And if properly
Right.
done, it's an exciting thing for the students and the parents and everything else. The one thing, all of these predictive measures are not judgmental. Judgment day comes when you got to achieve the aspirations of the state test. But it's feedback, constant feedback. The next thing I want to cover very quickly is the kind of...
I got one last thing, sorry,
Yeah.
just before I forget it. Just remind us on our Monday calls that we have, I'm still not convinced, we still need to convince ourselves that this is getting deployed. I'm convinced it's getting deployed to BART, but I'd just like to understand how we're deploying it down to our guides and teachers and staff members.
So that's part of my responsibility to help BART make some of that deployment. We're in that process right now. Your team, BART, you want to talk just briefly about that?
Yeah, so the answer to your question is we have a digital dashboard that is able to be broken out. Obviously, we're a large organization, so we have multiple teams, principal teams, managing director teams, and so we have a digital dashboard for our staff, from our teachers all the way up, that allows us to monitor and manage by specific team. So we know which students are taking formatives, we know when they take them, and we also know how they perform on those formatives. So there's two buckets that Bob basically was summarizing. Bucket one is the completion. Bucket two is the mastery. So we're monitoring both completion rates and mastery rates on those Oklahoma Academic Standard formatives.
And as you
Thank
deploy
you.
out your aspiration statements, your strategic objectives, on the front lines, the big question is, am I changing students' lives? And that's where a lot of these predictive assessments or predictive measures really grab the heart and soul. They may not remember your aspiration statements, but they know what part they play in achieving them.
Yeah, I guess in theory, I would love, this won't happen, but in theory, I would love, Bart, that you could just pick a random teacher and you would understand what they're doing to fit the aspirations. They might not need to understand it and
That's
how
right.
it fits in that. I mean, it'd be great if they did, but you just pick a random teacher out of the 1,500 and go look at their goals. I want you to be sure that it's aligned with those aspirations.
That's right.
Okay, all right, that's all.
And
Thanks.
if everything's deployed correctly, it will. It does take time, and National Baldrige winners have it down to a science, and that's where we're headed. That's where we're working towards. So let's shift gears. So strategic objectives, you've got 5 of them. There'll be a quiz later. One of them is Future Ready Graduate. This is the most exciting one of all because this statement right here is what's driving everything in education. Student success requires more than academics. What do you hear about in education constantly? Academics, 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 reading, writing, arithmetic, social studies. Sometimes we stretch it out to career tech, but never much beyond that. What about all those kids that are artistically talented? How many of those are kinesthetically talented? How many of them have creativity? How many of them grew up being incredibly persistent and will make a lot of money being salespeople? You know, there's all kinds of ways. So here's what I'm going to test. Tell me right off the top of your head, what is the skill set that is most important to your success today? Why are you successful today? Start right here on the edge of the board. Okay.
What was the answer? Leadership.
Leadership. John?
Continuing education for me.
Con- What did you continue education in? What was?
Just in any certifications that I have,
Okay.
continuing education in those fields, certifications.
Excellent. Ginger?
Probably knowing where to focus my time and energy.
Oh, okay. Dr. Steno?
I will agree with John on that, but also a high emotional IQ. I think being able to judge things well, discern, is very good at helping provide me the skills that I have needed.
Paul?
Gullible, maybe?
Gullible?
You got to be gullible to do some of the things I do. That was a joke, bad joke. I'd like to make a motion that we laugh at all my jokes. Can you do that, please?
All in favor?
Lord. What?
You just signal them so we know when you're joking.
Okay. Signal my jokes. Resilience.
Resilience?
Resilience, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely communication skills.
Communications?
I am in total lockstep with Waiwana, the ability to communicate.
Very good. So notice that none of you said it was because I could read well, or
That's
that I
true.
could compute well, or that I could understand science. Now, there is a base level that you got to do all of these, right? But what you've described is the challenge of education. If we are going to produce future-ready graduates, especially in a world where all the traditions are being uprooted. I think of Bart's son, who is in the top 10 songs on iTunes and has never set foot in a studio, literally. I mean, think about that world. And so this is a big statement that's driving what you have to do next. This is not the first time that this has been thought about. So you're not the first group to say, what does it take to be a future-ready graduate? In fact, there's over 30 frameworks that go back as far as the 1990s that have been working on this question. How many of you have run across any of these? You've run across a few? Now, this is really fine print. I'll let you read it on your own. But what we're going to do is begin this process not from scratch. Why do that when there's been over 30 studies and there's been lots of work involved in it? Why not take advantage of the research that's already been done? But here is why I think My Ways gives you a good send-off point. You don't have to start from scratch. You've got lots of research. In fact, My Ways spent a lot of Gates money and a lot of some other foundations money to try to put all this together. And NGLC My Ways, Next Generation Learning Challenge My Ways, is going to be your starting point. It's not your ending point because this is a unique school and you have unique perspectives. My Ways is just a good starting point. They've grouped their skill sets into 4 major quadrants. Content knowledge, math, science, and English, still important. Habits of success, persistence, resilience, ability to deal with failure, social skills, communications. Creative know-how, This one's big on creativity, collaboration, communications. The 4 C's are often talked about, the 21st century skills. And finally, this one is really interesting, is wayfinding. They use the word wayfinding. It's a little cerebral for me. This is answering the questions, what are you passionate about? What are you good at? What's the world need? And what will the world pay for? In other words,
Say those again, will you?
so what are you passionate about? What do you love? So I love golf,
Ruh-roh.
all right? What are you good at?
You can't make a living at it though, Bob.
Yeah, what are you good at? It isn't golf. I love golf more than it loves me. Now my son's really good, so that'd be another choice. But it's what are you passionate about? What are you good at? What's the world need? Basket weaving, underwater basket weaving is not a high priority for the most of the world, right? And then what will the world pay for? And the pay for separates it from a hobby and makes it a career. And so to be successful in life, you don't have to make money, but it helps. And you want to do things that you're passionate about, something that you're really good at, so you can be really good at it and feel and enjoy going to work, enjoy getting up in the morning and doing. So that wayfinding is helping people understand what are the career options, what are the life options. It's broader than just careers. Kind of makes sense?
Yeah, I would.
They have a set of skill sets in each one of them. We're not going to cover that today, but what we're going to propose is that you start with this work, and then let's go find out what the world thinks. Question?
No.
So, if you start with some of the best in the business, and then you put your own local flavor, what we propose, and this is in real small print, but it gives you an idea of a timeline of creating your own future-ready graduate. And by the way, what's a future-ready graduate definition? It defines the skills and knowledge that students are going to have when they graduate from EPIC, right? So there's all kinds of work that has to be done. If you say persistence or resilience is important or communications is important, we've got to figure out how to assess that, how to teach that, how to work it through the system, starting in kindergarten all the way up through. So there's a lot of work, but you're going to start the work by defining what we mean by a future-ready graduate. It has a stakeholder engagement phase, an analysis phase, approval, deployment, and continuous improvement. The timeline, the part that we want to introduce to you tonight and let you deliberate on, is actually a December, January, February, March, April. Most of the time is spent, it isn't work, consistent work, but we're trying to schedule it so that your board meetings can take bite-sized chunks of this process so you can really think about it. Because let's understand how important this is. When you decide this future-ready graduate, there's going to be a behemoth thing called EPIC Schools that's going to transform itself to deliver on that. So you kind of want to get it right. We're asking for the board to, first of all, agree to do this work. CF Educational Solutions, without any fees or anything, will simply do the survey work and manage the process.
Thank you.
You are working on, number one, deciding whether to do this, and then the stakeholder groups that you want to include. Who do you want us to interview, or not interview, but survey about what a future-ready graduate should be? That's the important part of the board, is connecting with the right constituents that you want to have a say in this.
Are we going to talk about that this meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Then, once you get those stakeholders, we'll go about the business of doing survey work and summarizing it. You have a future-ready graduate board committee, and so we'll help them produce a recommended skill set. That should be in February, that you start to review that, review the comments on recommendations, on stakeholder feedback, and then vote on a final future-ready graduate expectation. This is where the board turns it over to the administration, and they develop a timeline for deployment of your future-ready graduate. Questions? Now,
Seems like a long time. I know, and I see the look.
It'll move surprisingly quickly, and by the way, if you get really excited about it, February, you can shrink this thing up pretty quickly if you get lots of consensus on the board and you like what you see. So this is the longest timeline that I would expect you to take.
The second objective, strategic objective, is the gap analysis, if I'm remembering right.
Depends on which one you want to put first or second, but yes.
Well, we have one of our strategic objectives, I'm gonna get the wording not absolutely correct, but for Bart was to go and, this is what we want. This is what we want our graduates looking at.
Yep.
What's the system look like today?
That's
It
right.
ain't doing this. Probably. I mean, I hope we don't define the students that were, 'cause, you know, whatever.
Yeah, and
So-
that gap analysis was actually not only for what's being taught, but how well it's being taught. in
Right.
the systems. And that's where your formative assessment data is helping move that agenda right along already.
I feel good about this. I'd feel better if once we know the timeline of the gap analysis, because it can't be sequential, or whatever the word is. We can't wait till this is done to do the gap
That's right.
analysis. Okay.
So what you're doing, some of those two examples of the predictive measures, that's the gap analysis already underway.
That's fair. Okay.
You're starting to put pressure, you know, Justin's got a heavy pressure now got the MDIs and the principals all of a sudden we got rankings and oh, yeah, there is gaps. And again, they're not evaluative, they're informative and feedback.
So what the board needs to know at this strategic objective is we're going to get a say in who we ask what a future ready grad is.
That's right.
We're going to get a say in what we ask, and then we're going to get a say in the answers that come back, and you're going to tell us, you're going to analyze the answers and tell us what you found based on your experience, and then we get to massage it and vote on what the school really wants it to look like. Is that fair?
That's right. And I would point out that we'll give open-ended feedback provisions. So we'll give them a chance to see the My Ways stuff, but also in every community we've ever done this, there are additional things. And I'll give you an example. Empathy came up in a major initiative around a Chamber of Commerce that was trying to change graduation requirements for local schools. What industry said empathy was as important as anything else? The healthcare industry. They can't function without people that are empathetic and have to work on that. So, questions, comments?
I do have a, and sorry, my mic is on, but it's a little glitchy, so I'm gonna try to project my big girl voice. Is any of this based on, I know we're gonna talk about it, I recently heard like the National Superintendents Association has an initiative called either Portrait of a Graduate or Picture of a Graduate, and districts around the country are calling it different names, but it's kind of resting on that same foundation. I just always feel like it's helpful not to start completely from scratch. Is
Right.
part of this, is that part of this mix? Part
So-
of our resources?
So there's a pretty healthy run around the country around three big definitions or words that they use: graduate profiles, portrait of a graduate, and future ready graduates. What separates them is their beginning point. So portrait of a graduate is often around feelings and kind of general principles, and it's a little hard to identify the skill sets. Graduate profiles often begin with Ken Kay's 21st Century Partnership for 21st Century Learning, which if you look at Future Ready Graduate, that's Ken Kay's work right there. So that's all. So most of the Portrait of a Graduate or graduate profiles cover in these two areas, and they ignore these two. But Tell for Kids is a big driver nationally, almost always here and here, never here. So you may decide you don't want this or that, or you may want more than this, but that's the reason that I start with My Ways, because it's a more comprehensive takeaway.
I like that better.
Yeah. And the nice part is, it isn't like, well, we don't like them. They're here. All those other ones here, but more. Enough for one night? Thank you.
You done?
You got it.
No, I'm not done, sorry. You're not done. What is the stakeholders, when are we gonna be able to define who we interview for this?
That's something that I think is a great takeaway for, you don't need to have consensus on that. If we can just get everybody's desire, it isn't like we gotta limit who you talk with.
Well, I wanna be intentional, like not only get the boards, but I think we need to engage the chamber, higher education,
Students, parents.
parents, US military, alumni. Where's that list?
That's the one, we can deliver on all Oklahomans, and we could probably get this underway, but what we're most interested in is hearing what you as a board, that list that you just described, that's what we need from you as a collective group.
On who to go ask?
Who to
Okay.
go ask.
So that's our, sorry, I'm being dense. That's our action for the board.
Yep.
And then how are we gonna collect that information?
You've got your options, but the easiest one is just, each one of you can individually send me your selections, and I can feed that back to you, Paul, and you could share it. There's not a
Okay.
vote function, so you don't have a problem with.
No. Brandon, Janet, can you guys take a list of actions for Bart and I?
Yes.
On this one, it's to remind the board, we're all taking this action. You guys are agreeing to this? Okay. So the board is gonna get an email from you explaining what we need to do, and then reply to Bob with, here are the 5 things here are the 5 people you should go talk to.
That's right.
Then you'll pull it all together, and then you and I can talk about the game plan.
That's right.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be it can be individuals or groups, like the military. You want the chamber.
Right.
So, and
Okay.
by the way, what will they get? What are you inflicting on them? You're inflicting a survey and a thought exchange that's open-ended. So total time for the average person, 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes of their life to change the direction of the district. Not bad, not bad. Got it?
No, one last thing, sorry. I want to say this because I think it's worth saying, and it's going to come up again. In terms of what society is going to pay for in the future, I think is TBD, and I don't think society knows, because I think that's how big the changes are coming to society. I mean, we have a thread going on amongst some of us talking about Web 3.0 and the decentralization of governments using cryptocurrency. I mean, there's some big changes coming to our society, and the point I'm trying to make here is that we definitely need to be focused on the intangibles and helping students learn how to collaborate and interact in the world, because we're all going to have to figure this out together on what the new world looks like.
And Paul, I think that's why this one becomes ever increasingly important, because the ability to learn how to learn and how to find your way as the world changes is what you just described, is embodied in this place right here. And
Well,
the
and
more skilled people are, the more they use it throughout life.
Just the example, and this is going to be a funny one. This is your cue, everyone. I mean, I read an article the other day, 90% of attorneys aren't going to be needed in 10 years. I mean, artificial intelligence is more accurate now than some of the attorneys that I'd work with, for sure. Just kidding. So, I mean, there's big changes that are coming, and I think that's this decade. I mean, I don't think we can underlook this, if that makes sense, but we just got to make sure this is the forefront of what we're thinking. Because if the chamber comes back, no offense to them, they won't, and they're like, we got to have more attorneys, I'm gonna be like, no, we don't, for many reasons. All right, no offense to the attorneys. That's not true either. Okay, I think we're good.
Cool.
We're good? Any questions? Okay, microphone's working. We also I think we got a complaint that the audio is not working on FaceTime. We got complaints that the audio hasn't been working well? Okay. Everything's good? audio works, so you can watch this at home? You don't need to be here, is that what we're saying? Okay, all right. Let's move on to item number C, which would be discussion, consideration, and possible action to establish board member terms of service. Is that you, Catherine, or you gonna take that one, Bart?
Paul, one of the things, we had a recent governance committee meeting, and one of the items that was discussed was the possibility, now that we have a new school board, the possibility of putting in place terms, 1-year terms, 2-year terms, 3-year terms, so that we have this constant cycle of board members that are being considered on an annual basis. Also, this is part of our agreement with the statewide virtual charter school board, whereby technically, right now, because we don't have that in place, we are not in compliance with that agreement. And so in order for us to come 100% into compliance with that agreement, they would like to see, and I think it's a best practice as well. We do this in traditional brick and mortar schools as well, where we have this constant cycle on an annual basis for board members to come onto the board, and then also for board members to step off of the board.
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is best practice. Do you have a proposal?
Yeah, I do. I think, since we have a brand new board and we're trying to decide where to start, I think, in my opinion, the best place to start is to have the board chairman to make a determination on of our board members who should be on a 1-year term, 2-year term, and a 3-year term. And then from that point forward, allow our governance committee to consider new nominations for board members as our current board members step off. And so that would help us sort of get this up off the ground, which I think is a bit of a heavy lift. But if you could assist us with that, I think it would be helpful in helping us to come into compliance with the statewide virtual charter school board.
Okay, thank you. I understand that a little bit more. Can we make Tatum's a rolling 1-month term? Just kidding. Just needed to poke fun at you, John. So the motion would be to establish a policy that the board chair determines the terms, carte blanche, or?
So we have two thoughts. Initially, the board chairman would make the decision who's on a 1-year term, who's on a 2-year term, and who's on a 3-year term. Okay. And the idea would be to break it into thirds so that we have equitability. But moving forward, from that point forward, if we had a board member that stepped off, the governance committee would take applications, nominations for potential new board members and then bring them to the board for consideration.
Okay.
Is that correct, Catherine?
But if we come back, Catherine, and everybody's, 'cause I think the best approach on this would be for me to have a conversation one-on-one with each board member and ask you what you would want and what you're willing to commit. If everybody comes back 3 years, then I need to make a decision on, hey, that's probably not best. Okay. I'm okay with this, and I think we make a motion to do this, and then between now and the next board meeting, it's great. You have one-on-ones with each one of you. You tell me what you want, and I'll try to make it work for everyone. Are you okay with that? Ginger?
Figure out how to style that motion.
Yeah, do you want to try it?
I'll try. I make a motion that the chair of this board will decide the term for each board member initially.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Janet?
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez.
Yes.
Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Waiwana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
We don't have an agenda item for this, but I do want to note, because we talked about it. Did you want to say something about this item?
No, we're trying to.
Oh. How's the audio? Is it working? I've talked past couple board meetings, or we have, about nonprofit solutions, and Jerry Holmes from that organization is here. So they're supporting our governance committee as well as the entire board, and they're specifically, and we have to have this on the agenda next time, but there are specifically some IRS issues that we've talked about that we need to get voted in and changed in our bylaws, even if we're not ready to do the whole bylaws by next month, which I think we'll be ready. But Brandon and Janet, can you make sure we take the action that the next month's agenda has to have that item on it? We cannot go into next calendar year without solving that. Okay. We're ready to move on. The last thing on governance would be board committee reports. And John, we'll just start with you, and then we'll do it with you, Doctor, and then I'll do Renee's. Or did you have Renee's? Do you have it? I don't want to do it if you have it. Yeah. All right, John, you go first.
So in our, currently we have a consulting engagement going with Hogan Taylor, the public accounting firm here in Oklahoma City. And I spoke with them today, and just the update is they are continuing to work diligently on the areas that we've asked them to focus on. And there's a few outstanding items that they're still needing from us here. Probably more Janice. Janice, I hate to put you on the spot, but probably more from Janice than anybody. Because she's doing the heavy lifting on that as well in concert with them. So it is underway, and they're making good progress. That's what I know.
Okay. Can you, for the next board meeting, can you, and I don't think we have to do this, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I don't think we have to do this in executive session, but can we come back with a timeline of when we're going to have this done and
Yes.
buttoned up? And,
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Alana? Oh, you don't have a question? Catalina? What the heck, am I making things up? Okay.
I just cleared my throat.
Okay. Oh, what a weird meeting. It's fun. You want to give an update?
Do we want Jerry to also be on this part, since she is here?
You
And
mean speak?
Yes.
No, go ahead. You can
Okay,
cover it.
all right.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we
No,
wanted
thank you for
an
that, but
update from her.
no, that's okay.
All right. So last Friday, we met, as we always do, the Friday before our board meeting. And basically, it was pretty short. We just went over the revisions of the bylaws, and spoke also about what Bart just shared about the terms, the term limits. So that's
Okay.
pretty much all we did.
Do you think we'll be able to vote on bylaws next board meeting?
Yes, I think Jerry and I felt we would be able to.
Okay.
Wherever she
She's
is.
shaking her head, yes. She's over
Oh, she's over there.
Yeah.
There you are.
there. She's giving you a nod. Okay. Renee is the committee chair for the Superintendent Evaluation, and her update is that they met as a group. They do have a timeline. Ginger, you're taking a stab at the superintendent position description. I gave Renee also a copy of the Academy of Seminoles. Do you have that? Okay. We have Bart's goals, and then I think we're going to pull all that together, and then at the next board meeting, if Renee, Brandon, and Janet can come back with just some more color on just major milestones. Because to me, the end point is we have Bart's first evaluation. I think we said June. Okay. And so what are the major steps between now and then? I just want to know what they are. That's all. Did I cover everything? Ginger, on that committee? Okay. Okay, well, that concludes governance. Thank you for that. And I really do just want to say again, I like this new structure of the agenda. I think this is just so much better that we get these big ticket items out of the way. So thank you for allowing us to do that. Superintendent, over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Sean, if you want to queue up the superintendent spotlight video, and go ahead and start it.
EPIC's Native American Student Organization, or Nassau, is a newly formed organization with the goal of embracing Native American students and expanding their understanding of Native American cultures. Nassau's objective is to help Native American students succeed in school by providing cultural lessons, leadership opportunities, and extracurricular activities. All 7th through 12th grade students who want to learn more about Native American culture are welcome to join. Did you know that EPIC currently has more than 9,000 students identifying as Native American? That's almost 25% of our student population.
Many Native students live outside their tribal boundaries, so Nassau and our Title VI Indian education programs may be the only link these students have to their culture. As a result, they may have fewer opportunities to interact with their peers who understand their culture, practice, and traditions.
Studies show that Native students have better educational outcomes when they have a greater connection to their culture and have supportive personnel at school. EPIC has made a commitment to provide services and activities to meet the unique academic and cultural needs of our Native American students.
I'm excited to be able to join an organization that gives me the opportunity to share my culture with others and to continue to learn about my classmates' tribal heritage. I'm encouraging you to take the step and join me as an active member of Nassau.
As a parent of an EPIC student, I'm excited for my daughter's heritage to be celebrated and cultivated within this school district. EPIC believes having a Title VI grant will help grow and sustain a program to meet a variety of needs for our Native American students. It is with great excitement that we will be applying for the Title VI grant in the spring of 2022. Let's take a brief look at what Title VI is and the impact it has on Native American students. We are preparing for implementation by offering some services and activities this year.
Your involvement will make a difference, not only for the school, but also for you. As a member of Nassau, you will have additional enrichments, opportunities that speak to you, to us as Native Americans. Here's just a glimpse at what's to come just this school year.
I'm proud of my Osage heritage and enjoy learning about my people, but also about other Native American cultures as well. It is our hope that our students will come to learn and respect the legacy and culture that our Native ancestors contributed to our society. By becoming a Nassau member, we will give our students the same opportunity to not only learn, but also to have a lot of fun. Join Nassau today. Together, we can recognize and celebrate the heritage and legacy that is forever a part of our story.
So inspiring. Did you all catch the number? Over 9,000 Native American students from across the state of Oklahoma attend EPIC charter schools. 25%. 25%. It's unbelievable. It's fantastic. So EPIC is rich in diversity, and we are proud to serve all of our students. So we're going to pull up the superintendent's update for our one-on-one school.
Are we seeing enrollment in the Nassau? I know we just launched that, but is it going to be popular? Do we know? Do you have any? How many of the 9,000?
Yeah, so I think you're right. We're just getting it off the ground right now, getting the communication out to families to make them aware of what it is. We look for it to grow.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sovereign is a school here in Oklahoma City. Bart, I think I've talked to you about it before, but Sovereign, James McSpadden is the board chair of that. I do know that, and I can't remember the superintendent's name right now, but they're doing a lot of really incredible work. It might be a partnership for this organization to do with them, because they're immersed. These are my words. Sovereign is a charter school in town, but it's an immersion in indigenous culture, if you will, in certain ways. And that's all I know. But
okay.
No action needed, but just consider that and reaching out to them and talking to them.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to go through our superintendent's update here. We typically will start off with enrollment, just to give the board an update of where we were. So you can see last year we were, the FQSR is an acronym, first quarter statistical report. That is the 45th day of school. So in 2021, that was 34,604 students for our one-on-one school. You can see for 21-22, we locked in at 23,839. That's as of November the 15th. 2021, but you can definitely see the delta between where we were last year on the 45th day and where we are this year from an enrollment standpoint on the 45th day. Go ahead, Sean. So as a result of that, we are doing some right sizing. So we can't operate a 40,000 kid school with a 60,000 kid staff. Mathematically, that just doesn't work. And so what we've identified is that student support systems have been strengthened this school year, and obviously we've been talking for months now about lowering roster sizes to make that investment in our academic outcomes, and obviously offering more personalized attention for the students that we are serving. But now we're sort of also taking a look at right-sizing EPIC as an organization. And so Janice is going to give you more update when she comes up for the Deputy Superintendent of Finance update in terms of the specific numbers. But what I wanted you to know is that we are in the process of right-sizing our organization as our enrollment normalizes. And then also just wanted to point out some of the changes, Paul, that have taken place over the last couple of months. Just huge changes to our organization, starting with our school board and a brand new school board. But reorganizing our system, obviously I mentioned new governance, updated budgeting systems, advanced technological systems, and we are a stronger organization that's much more positioned to instruct and empower students. So you can go to the next one. Let's take a look at graduation. This is something that Bob brought up that we're going to be monitoring in our dashboards and obviously communicating that to our board. But what I wanted to do is give you a 3-year snapshot of where we were and where we're trending. And so if you look at our 101 high school graduation rate in 2019, it was around 38%. In 2020, 42%, and 2021, 52%. And so we are vested in identifying students that are at risk of either dropping out of school or falling behind cohorts. So they're not gaining enough credit, academic credit, on an annual basis. And what we're doing is we're wrapping this supportive ecosystem around those high school students to either accelerate their learning and catch them back up with their cohort, or what you're seeing here is get them across the finish line. Right now, we're not where we want to be from a graduation rate standpoint. We still have a lot of work to do, Paul.
Yeah.
But you can see the trend is moving in a positive direction.
The trend is our friend, for sure. But that's an F plus, right? I mean, that's,
Yep.
we just unacceptable. When do we think we're close to 100? Is that 2 years from now, 3 years from now? We don't know. We're still working on it. What do you?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about 100%,
Yeah.
right now I think the state graduation rate, and somebody chime in if you all know it right off the top of your head. Michael, do you?
Leland?
80% is the statewide average
Okay.
for all Oklahoma public schools. So to be at 100%, I'd like to see.
Okay, I'll go with 80. How about 80? When do you think you could be at 80?
Yeah, I think if you look at the trend line, I think we could hit 80 by 2025.
All right. If this was 2024, I would be okay with that answer.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is part of our gap analysis
Yeah.
that we need to do. And I agree the trend is our friend, but the trajectory of the trend is not. And you just need to be open to ways of how can we get this to 80% in the next 18 months. Okay, I've said enough. Thank you.
Go ahead, Wawana.
This is where I'd like to add, 2 months ago, I mentioned, I don't think our graduation gap is all academic.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a large family base that enrolls their kids in EPIC, not for the reasons that we exist. And they're leaving for that. It's not that it's not all academic. So I feel like that's a huge thing, just to figure that out from the start. I don't think it's all academic.
I agree. Next one, Sean.
Just, that's an incredible point. We just need to get clear about what is the goal and why. Because in my head, it's 80%, but maybe that's not even the right goal. Maybe we need to rethink that. So I think that was a really good point. And that's the action, is what's the goal and when are we going to get there and how fast? Okay, thank you.
Next up, a tech update for everybody. So parents are now able through PowerSchool to place Learning Fund orders for themselves. Those Learning Funds learning fund orders will be processed, and the goods that are approved will be shipped directly to the families. Attendance reporting is 100%, so we're a go with Power School and our ability to report attendance to the state of Oklahoma, which is a requirement for all virtual schools to be able to provide that. So we're up and running and ready to go. Power School, our SIF agent, and the SDE are now talking to one another. So we are compliant, and the information and the migration of information is flowing back and forth. So we're good to go there.
Nice.
Epic Ed is a core curriculum I've been telling you about for pre-K through 8th grade. That has been deployed. That is a free curriculum that is 100% aligned to the Oklahoma academic standards, and it's created by Epic teachers for Epic teachers, students, and parents. And so I've had a look at it. It's fantastic.
What are teachers saying about it?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of really positive feedback from it. And then obviously it's new, so we're going to be taking that feedback, and when we find areas where it's fallen short, we'll be able to correct those. But what's important about Epic Ed to understand is that we control it. Unlike other outside vendors, we don't control them. We do control this and the quality that's in there. The other cool part about the Epic Ed core is that it's connected through Schoology, and so it automatically syncs with our Power School gradebook. So teachers don't have to input grades. So as children complete assignments in Schoology through Epic Ed, they can click a button and it will automatically sync from Schoology to the Power School gradebook. Teacher doesn't have to do anything. So it saves teachers time. If you look at, I asked my father, who works in a traditional brick and mortar school, how many hours per week do you spend grading papers and plugging that into the online gradebook? He said 10 hours a week. So that's 40 hours a month. So if we can give back 40 hours a month of instruction time to our teachers, whereby students can get more face-to-face interaction, then we hope to see a correlation with our academic performance. So we're excited about that. Power School data reporting now exceeds what was in Epicenter. That's a pretty big milestone. Yeah. So Power School is incredibly powerful, and we're finding, Paul, the more we interface with them, the more optionality that is available for our school. And so we are just scratching the surface in terms of what Power School can do.
Yeah, well, we didn't have anything that was real before. I mean, Epicenter is whatever. But the fact that we're already exceeding that and you're only a couple months into it is not shocking. It's wildly disappointing in some ways, but that's cool.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Also, we had an outfit by the name of Kincaid IT. It's a vendor that specializes in Google, the Google suite, and they were able to go in and do an audit of our Google platform to basically look for security issues, and they were able to make recommendations to us. We'll be considering those recommendations to make our platform more secure for students and staff. So our BA team is focused under Roger on finding efficiencies for teachers. I mentioned the gradebook efficiency. That's one example of it. And all core and supplemental automations are in place. And so the future of the world is automation, artificial intelligence, and algorithms. Those three. And so what we have in place through Roger and his team, through RDI, which is one of the vendors that we partner with, and through Power School, is we are able to take our core and supplementals, and when a student chooses whatever choice they want for their core, it automatically sets them up without a human being having to do it, Paul.
That's really cool.
So it's powerful, and when you're talking about tens of thousands of students and choice, bringing choice to families, it's huge.
We're just beginning, you said it, to scratch the surface of what a capable technology is like. I mean, we're
Correct.
just now getting into this, so I mean,
Correct.
this is good stuff.
It's exciting. And then obviously, we've been a little bit tough on SpendBridge with regards to Learning Fund, but I want to come back and I want to offer up some praise.
Okay.
Our friends at SpendBridge have improved Learning Fund load times, which they said they would. They have completed better dashboard view of our Student Learning Fund orders and balances, and we've asked SpendBridge to prioritize parent ordering. So this will allow parents, instead of ordering through Power School, to be able to go in and order on their own directly. And so we're working on that automation, and we hope to have that in the spring semester available for our families. Next slide, Sean. So let's talk pre-COVID and up to today. So EPIC has grown by 38%. So before the pandemic started, if you look at 2019, 2020, our first quarter statistical report for the school was 27,480 kids. So EPIC has grown by 38% within its first 9 weeks of school, comparing the 1920 school year, the FQSR, to where we are now, which is encouraging. We had this incredible, so we had around 27,000 kids, and then last year we got this incredible surge that took us over 61,000 kids, and then we saw that normalize back down to 38,000 kids. And I can't understate that, you know, because right now we're seeing this attrition that has occurred where I think it's 56% of new students that came to us last year because of the pandemic decided to return back to their local brick and mortar, whereas 44% of new students that came to us during the pandemic decided to stay. That's huge when you look at it, you know, in those terms. So 3 out of 5 decided to return, 2 out of 5 decided to stay. And so I think what that demonstrates is under normal circumstances, when you look at our school, a 38% growth rate is pretty healthy. You know, if you take out the anomaly of COVID-19 and the pandemic, it's a pretty healthy growth rate. And I think it's indicative of the service that we're offering families and the choice that we're offering families, because they don't have to come to our school. They're choosing to come to our school. And based on the growth rate, they're choosing to stay under normal circumstances. The state of Oklahoma captures enrollment district at the end of the first 9 weeks. I already mentioned that for the 45th day. Go ahead, Sean. So this, I feel like I say this every month, but this is cool. Oklahoma Christian University has partnered with Epic Charter Schools. A multi-tiered scholarship model for students graduating from Epic is now available. They just announced this a couple weeks ago. Epic students pursuing a college degree at Oklahoma Christian University will have a chance at receiving one of 3 scholarship options. They're guaranteeing $2,000 a year up to full tuition. And then the Epic Graduate Scholarship is the $2,000 award. Tier 1, the Difference Maker Award, $14,500 in tuition per year towards their degree. And then Tier 2 is they are offering the Epic Presidential Award, which is a full tuition scholarship for an Epic graduate.
How many are they giving us?
I believe it's just one on the full tuition, but is that right? Yeah, thank you, Nicole. And Nicole's going to talk more about this and go in depth, but this is exciting.
This is.
You know, this is a wonderful institution that's doing great work, and they're wanting to partner with us because they see how incredible our students are. Yeah. All right, let's.
Are we going to talk, Nicole, more about the OC in general? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
On November the 9th was our first ever college, career, and military fair. We had 33 different representatives at 50 Place for students and families as they plan for life after high school. Our Tulsa Fair was the 16th, and we're hosting a virtual fair right at this moment. So you can see pictures of students coming in and getting their questions answered, and it's all about what we talked about. It's about being a future-ready graduate, and for those that are interested in college or military, we offered individuals from those respective universities that came and from the military branches an opportunity to get their questions answered. All right, next one, Sean. Field trips. So we have this moniker of being a virtual school, and so people don't think we do things face-to-face, but we do. So this is just a couple of examples of pictures of field trips that are being taken throughout the state of Oklahoma, and opportunities for sort of hands-on kinesthetic learning that is taking place. And so one of the things that I would say to our families that are listening online right now is if you are not plugged in to our social media outlet, whether that's Facebook or YouTube or TikTok, or plug in, and we are going to be announcing these things through social media. We'll also be announcing them through our website, these opportunities for you to engage with other EPIC students, other EPIC families, and create connections that can help create a better experience for our EPIC students. Go ahead, Sean. And then we mentioned the Nassau organization, and we saw the video. So Spirit Week celebrates Native American Heritage Month, which is this month, and you can see some of the cool things they did. On Monday the 15th, traditional dress showcase. Tuesday was Rock Your Mocks. Wednesday was Native Hero. Thursday is a Nassau meeting, and then Friday was Native Bling, Native Bling, and turquoise. And so we're so very proud of our Native American students, their heritage, and Paul, we want to celebrate them. So I think that's it. Is that right, Sean? Yep, that's my report.
So today's Native Hero Day? Is that
So,
what that was?
so we are celebrating as a part of Native American Heritage Month and History Month. We are celebrating our Native American students, Native American culture, and obviously Oklahoma is Native America.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for that update. Janice? You have the next two, Janice? Are you also doing the general fund? Yeah, okay.
All right, good evening, board members. This is the financial update for EPIC One-on-One Charter School. In your packet, you have all of the usual suspects. I will highlight those, try to do this as briefly as possible, and then, of course, open it up for any questions that you have at the end. At the end of September, our cash balance in the bank, $32,300,000 or so, and then the fund balance after checks have cleared the bank, $27.5 million. Your total year-to-date revenue and expenditures is listed on your income statement. The number that you're all looking for and interested in is that instruction percentage. We're sitting at 73.83%, climbing a little bit every month. That's normal with the way that our expenses work, as we've talked about before. So the fund balance at the end of September is $27 million and a little bit of change. You've seen that trend up month over month a little bit. It'll stick around there for a little while. So that's good, healthy balance. Learning fund update. Encumbrances are up to almost $37.5 million as of Monday, November 15th. And we have processed 403,822 approved items through the Learning Fund since the Learning Fund opened just a short couple of months ago. It feels like days sometimes that it's been open, totaling $21 million in charges to student accounts. And I've given you a list of all those. There's also a report in your board packet that lists more of the specifics on the encumbrances and on all of these items.
Janice,
Yes.
can you remind me if you recall, of the 13.9 on technology fees, wasn't a large portion of that just paying for the entire year?
Yes,
Okay.
those are most of those are annual fees for
Okay, yeah.
MiFis, so that's $30 a month times the full 12 months, or for their Chromebook renewal or for a new Chromebook. Those are all lumped into technology. Also, fees for damaged property are there, and then calculator renewals or new calculators. There's quite a bit in technology. It is by far our largest. It's also front-loaded because technology was part of core. So we did a lot of technology and core ordering right at the beginning of the year when school opened, and we just recently opened up that last category, non-standard services and supplies. That's gymnastics and karate and driving school, all open, and we've processed $426,000 worth of orders in just a short couple of weeks. So cooking with gas, as my dad would say. It's going fast. So lots and lots of information there. 12,000, almost 13,000 Amazon orders. So yes, the Learning Fund is working hard to get these things ordered and approved for our kiddos. So the item on the agenda that requires action tonight is to approve an amended budget. The School District Budget Act allows for the board to receive and approve amended budgets as needed throughout the year. I am required to present this to you, have you vote, and then it will be submitted to the county clerk and stamped in and goes to the State Department and the state auditor and all those things. So what we're doing tonight for Epic One is actually a budget reduction. As Bart implied and explained, all of our funding and all of that is tied to our student count. So we are expecting in Epic One, the first column is what you approved in June. So you approved a $209 million, almost 210 expenditure budget. What we're asking for you to approve tonight is a lowering. So technically, I could just keep going on and spend less than 209 million and I'm still in compliance and I'm not gonna get in trouble. But that's not the way the world works for me. The way the world works for me is for you to know exactly what I'm dealing with, and that's this right here. So I've broken out the revenue and the expenditures just like it is in the budget, which is what's required and what goes to the State Department and what's on the State Department transparency site when they report our numbers. The top section is your revenue, and the second row is the one that we're all talking about. Our state revenue, we're projecting a $60 million decrease in our state revenue. Cash flow wise, that'll start in January, but that's an annual basis, what we're expecting based on our current estimated weighted ADM, which I've been calculating daily for about 4 weeks. We are increasing our federal revenue because we've added ESSER 2 to the budget. ESSER 3 is still not in the budget. We're reserving it for next year, still. So this is ESSER 2 added in, state revenue being right-sized for our current student population. And then on the bottom, you can see where we've right-sized all of our different categories. The delta between the 49 million revenue reduction and the $44 million expense reduction is a $5 million dip into our fund balance that we carried over from last year. We carried over $30 million last year. So we're gonna spend some of that, which we planned to do, as we talked about that before. So we carried a higher balance so that we could spend into it without hurting a healthy balance towards the end of the year. The changes in the budget, how in the world am I gonna save $44 million in a year? There's a lot of different ways. We're going to do a weighted ADM reallocation between our two districts. So we have many things that are proportional costs between the two districts that are based on our weighted ADM. Well, when the weighted ADM changed, that allocation changed. So that'll be done. We're doing a reduction in staff, as Bart mentioned. We're doing reduction in non-payroll expenses. We're using some of that carryover, which I just mentioned, and my favorite, we're gonna use our contingency because that's what it's for. We've been planning for a large portion of this. It takes all 5 of those things to get to that $44 million.
How much contingency do you think you're gonna have to use?
I still have, there's a page in your packet that has the department budgets, and I believe there's still a $5 million contingency left even after this reduction.
And then how much carryover are you projecting?
It is, do you have the budget sheet in the presentation, in the packet? I think it's 20, sorry, I didn't print it because you have it in your packet.
22?
Yes, the very bottom line on that proposed budget. You can see the carryover. I have the carryover at the same percentage as the original budget. So it's truly just a right size down. I tried to keep it very close to that 10% carryover.
Is that a plug?
What do you mean?
Is the carryover just a kind of to get the budget to work, or is that really what you think the carryover is gonna be in June?
It's both. I'm trying to right-size the budget to get exactly what I need to carry over into July because there's no state funding in July. So I've got to be able to cover all of our payroll and expenses from that carryover. So
And how much? The carryover this year was 30 combined?
30, that's correct.
So we're basically gonna burn $8 million this year. Is that another way of looking at it?
Yes, our original budget had us burning some already, so we're
Yeah.
burning a little bit more than your original budget had with the new budget. That is a correct statement. But
I'm not
the
panicked about this. I mean,
the carryover, I think it's healthy to look at the carryover as a percentage of the total budget. So if your total budget goes down, if you're aiming at a 10% carryover, the number's gonna go down even if the percentage stays the same.
that's fair. Is our carryover percentage, I don't have it in front of me, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
it's very,
Is it
very, very close.
Similar,
Yes.
as you said, okay.
That's my goal, is to try to keep the percentages the same.
Do
So-
you have any thoughts on this, Ginger, John? Okay.
I'm not concerned about it. It sounds reasonable to me, actually.
Yeah, I'm also not concerned. It sounds like something that Janice is prepared for, so.
Okay.
I'm just concerned about how this all happened. Very concerned and how, do we have a policy about riffing? I mean, is there a policy anywhere that we have about the riffing? And did we have to do it so suddenly? I mean, could we not have allowed for a warning for these people that were riffed? I just felt really empathetic as Dr. Summers was speaking earlier. I just feel that we could have done that a different way. As a board member, I had no idea we were doing it at all so suddenly and not, I mean, this is probably for Bart, but I was very concerned about how this happened. And if you could help me on that.
Yeah, so, you know, when we came into this fiscal year, we weren't sure what our enrollment would look like. It's a bit of a scientific projection. All we knew at the time was that the Delta variant was surging. We knew that mask mandates were being considered by other local school districts. And so what we had to go on, the best context we had, Catherine, was from 12 months before, which is basically the doubling on almost a 30,000 kid base to 61,000 kids. And we felt like we were going to see some attrition because our families that had come to us last year, many of them told us, this is a one-year solution for us. And then when things normalize on the ground, we're going back to our local brick and mortar school. The challenge with that is, how do you quantify that? And so it really wasn't until we got into September and October that the enrollment began to sort of normalize at that point. And our funding, as Janice mentioned, starting in January, is based on the 45th day, which for us was November the 11th, I believe. And so once you lock in at that number, whatever that weighted ADM is, that will determine what your budget is beginning in the spring semester. And so we had two choices. One, we could have done nothing.
And what would have happened? Where would we have been, Janice, had we done nothing?
We would have probably eaten up our entire carryover and
Well-
had not what we needed to start the next year healthily,
Right.
would be
Okay.
my best educated answer.
Okay, and so how do we choose who we were riffing? What was that based on?
Yeah, so we can't go into
Yeah, we don't wanna go into
personnel decisions. And we can't go there. But what I can tell you is that the decision that we made was to not do nothing. It was to be proactive, to get out in front of this and to begin, as Janice mentioned, saving dollars because we knew we're not going to receive a state aid payment during the month of January for our one-on-one school. And not only that, we're not going to receive a state aid payment in February
Right.
for our one-on-one school. And March's state aid payment is a fraction for our one-on-one school of what it has been. And so the decision was made by me to begin a reduction in force to try to be proactive, to get out in front of this so that we don't enter the next school year in an unhealthy state.
Okay. I just still feel that if we could have just waited till after the holidays.
Sure.
I just-
Yeah, I'll just tell you this, Catherine. It is a painful process. Reductions in force are painful. It is unfortunate, but I can assure you it is necessary.
I think this is important to distinguish between our role and Bart's role. It's not we don't get a say in these kind of matters. I mean, we manage Bart, period. And we get to say, the hiring and firing of Bart.
Yeah.
Beyond that, that's up to Bart and the processes and so on and so forth. So I know, I mean, he's kept me up to date on his thought process on this and how they've worked through it. I feel very confident that this has been well thought through, and there's been a lot of empathy poured into this, and I'm surprised you're surprised, to be honest with you, because Bart's talked about this at board meetings about budget cuts are coming and that we're gonna have to do some things. So this isn't a surprise by any stretch of the imagination to this board. And so I disagree with that statement. I think that's unfair to Bart and the team. So,
I just think that communication would have been good. And I agree with you. Yeah, Bart, you were absolutely the one that's supposed to make those decisions. I just like communication. I would
Sure.
have liked to have known before I
You-
saw it in the paper.
Right.
you and I are in 100% agreement, and, you know, Bart and I have had conversations about this. I don't think a press release was needed. I think it was, I'll just leave it at that. So, you know, we're kind of working this out together, and
Yeah.
I want our communications team, so I want you guys to hear this. Our communications team, our communications strategy is centered around what's in the best interest of students. I don't care what the Tulsa World or Oklahoma thinks. I don't. And no offense to them, we are here to run a school. And if you want to do a press release on the fact that our graduation rates are finally at 80%, okay, maybe. But the inner workings of the school and the stuff that we got going on, those days are over. This media game that we played in the past to gaslight everyone is over. And so I agree, going forward, you know, if I open the paper and it's a press release from Epic, I really hope it's about something positive around students and parents and that we're doing.
So back to approving of the budget. The approved budget that you had in front of you before, that you approved in June, was for an expenditure budget of $209 million, 10.51% carryover. I said 10, I was very close. And that was $22 million, as you stated. The revised budget is for an expenditure total of $165 million with a 10.51% carryover of $17.379 million, which is approximately 2 months of payroll. So that's what we're aiming at. There are all kinds of things that can happen between now and June 30th. All kinds of things. We could find great grants, we could find new funding, we could have all kinds of different things happen. So you have my word that I will keep you in the loop on those things, and you'll have a new budget if a new budget is needed. But as of today, where we stand, I am asking for your approval to decrease our budget from $209,712,090 to $165,316,556.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Janet?
Paul Campbell,
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez,
Yes.
Ginger Casper,
Yes.
Wywana Montgomery,
Yes.
Catherine Steno,
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
Thank you very much. If there are any questions related to the financial report, I'd be happy to answer them now, or you can contact me anytime in my office. All right. Thank you very much, board members.
Thanks, Shanice. How are we doing on break? It's 7, Lord. We got Nicole, Marty, consent agenda. How long did we give Nicole and the team? I want to make sure we give them the proper time. Did we talk about that? 10 minutes, 20 minutes? Bart just split the difference. Okay, so go about 25 more minutes, 30, well, as long as Nicole and Marty need, we're not gonna cut that short. So if we need, let's say that's probably 30 minutes and then another 5 on the consent agenda. So let's try to be in executive session no later than 7:45. I think we can do earlier than that. Janet, what was that look? You just agreeing? Okay. Hi, Nicole, welcome. just remind the board of your position here, and I know we know each other, but.
Okay. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thank you for allowing us to speak to you this evening about college and career readiness and next steps. So my role here at EPIC is I am the Managing Director of College and Career Readiness. And I'm excited to tell you what's been going on in our world. So there we go. The goal of every single thing that our team plans, oversees, and implements as it relates to college and career readiness and our students is with their future in mind. I have a team of people dedicated to this every single day who are fueled by their passion, and we know that every single student at EPIC has a next step after graduation, and we know that this board agrees with that, which is clear from our aspirations. I did want to give you an update of where we stand with just post-secondary participation. This is a very important metric because it is tied to our accountability report card. So just to kind of recap for the board, as a part of our accountability report card, 11th and 12th graders in the state, we are given a letter grade based on our participation in these areas, which is early college and career exposure through Next Step coursework. Next Step is our term, but it's the state's post-secondary opportunities. So we essentially get credit for participation of students in AP coursework, concurrent or dual credit classes, career tech, but that must be a full-time program leading to a certification, and then internship work-based learning. If you look at this trend data, you can see just a few short years ago, we did not have a program in place. We started Next Step, and in 17-18, we actually did not have any staff dedicated to this area of focus. And you can see year over year, we've continued to improve, which we love. I prepared this, and we were at 81%, but just a few hours ago, I got an update, and we're actually at about 83%, which is really great.
Yeah.
That means 83% of our juniors and seniors are in one of those areas we addressed before on the prior slide.
Do you have a breakdown? Is that what this is?
That is.
Okay.
So I am going to remind you, this is only 11th and 12th graders. And to start with, we have AP, and you'll see 108 students are taking AP coursework through 18 different classes that are taught by AP certified teachers. I do want to point out that AP is brand new this year, and we are working on a program that will implement pre-AP. So we jumped right into AP, but these students actually did not have the ability to go through a pre-AP program preparing them. So that will be something that we look at in the future, and those pre-AP classes would also be taught by certified AP teachers. The next breakdown is career tech. So enrolled across the state, we have 720 students enrolled in a full-time program. But going back to that metric, only 607 of those count under what the state calls post-secondary opportunities. So it's important to note that 720 are out there getting this career technical education, but only 607 count for that percentage. The next is TEL. So TEL is an Oklahoma nonprofit partner that we have that offers fully online concurrent classes for our students. And when a student enrolls through our partner with TEL, then they become an Oklahoma Christian student. That is where their transcript comes from, and this has been a beautiful partnership. When you look at that number, we have 676 students who are taking TEL coursework, so they are Oklahoma Christian students, for a total of 1,813 classes.
We have, okay, keep going.
Yeah. The next area is area concurrent. So when you look at this number across the state, we are currently, there's 54 colleges and universities and So across the state, we have 231 students who are taking coursework at their area college for a total of 559 classes. Now, I do want to point out the number you're seeing for TEL is one significantly higher because there's no barriers for these students. We have worked really diligently with this partner to remove any barriers. When it comes to cost, they don't have to get in their car, there's no application fee, and we even have a little bit more flexibility for admission into this coursework, okay? So that's number one. Number two, in that number for TEL, you're seeing some enrollments included are spring. But then when you look at the area concurrent, that's just the semester. Enrollment for spring semester has just opened up with these colleges and universities. So we anticipate that number for the area college will more than double once we're looking at this later in the year for spring.
Am I looking at this correct to say that based on this data, if you take 676 plus 231, that we have 907 students concurrently enrolled in a college that are in 11th or 12th grade?
Correct.
And how many 11th and 12th graders do we have?
That's a great question.
7,000 or something?
So 11th and 12th graders, we have 7,570. But I want to point out that when you're looking at GPA or grad path, being on the college prep grad path, and having the academic history where they would really succeed, or data would say that they're prepared for the college rigor, that drops that number down to 2,307. And then if you look at our enrollments of AP, college coursework, or career tech, we have 1,735. So we're really close for those students who, on paper, one would say are prepared for that they are really engaged in one of those areas. There's improvement to be made, and we are working towards that. But I did have that metric.
That's a good one. I gotta be careful not to get too much in the weeds on this one, but it's interesting what you just said, because to me, we have 7,500 students that we should be encouraging to take this class.
I completely agree, and we're working through, we're working, I'm excited. So if you will hang with me.
Oh, okay, I'll stop. What's internship, WBL? What is that?
So internship, work-based learning.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. We're going to keep going, but I assure you I'm going to answer some of these questions. The next area down here in this bottom section I wanted to point out is we do have, while that's looks like small numbers of students in 9th and 10th grade participating, I want to highlight those students because, one, we don't get credit on the accountability report card, but two, we have opportunities for our 9th and 10th graders. So generally an area college would not accept a student prior to the summer after 10th grade, but we have some really epic students who are prepared for that rigor, and our team has advocated for them, and they've gotten accepted to either their area university or through TEL, or in their local career tech. Some of the career tech programs would be more like a pre-engineering program that they're going to do 3 years in. So wanted to highlight that. There is a current list you can see of our current AP offerings. We're looking at expanding that next year with some additional courses as well, if we can. Okay, I'm going to give you some concurrent updates. I know that is one thing that Paul really likes to hear about. So the first thing is that we worked with the finance team to get POs in place for all of our in-state colleges and universities. This is for us to be able to ensure that no matter which college a student enrolls in, that if they want to use their learning fund towards any tuition hours that are not covered by the tuition waivers in the state or that area college, juniors in the state, there are no tuition waivers. So the cost is either through the learning fund or out of pocket for the family, or if that college does cover a certain amount of hours. But then the fees are left to the family or the books. So being able to leverage that learning fund is a big win, and we are working with every college in the state to make sure that there's a seamless process and they understand how they can invoice us and work with our team. A few months ago, the board made a decision to kind of update our equivalency for Comp 1 and Comp 2, and I just wanted to report back that that was a really big win for our students. It creates more buy-in. Previously, we had seniors taking Comp 1, and they would generally do that maybe spring of their senior year. Now, because Comp 1 counts for junior English, we have a lot more students who, they're as a result taking more college hours. They're taking Comp 1 junior year, Comp 2 senior year. Next is I just wanted to share with the board that concurrent enrollment engagement is much higher than we've seen before, and that's because we have an incredible team dedicated to that, but also just the awareness piece as a school has increased. But more exciting than that is that we have more credit hours being taken. So when I couldn't share all of the colleges, but I wanted to point out a few. So our TEL enrollments, if you compare just spring to fall, our students are earning 602 more credits. TCC, from spring to fall, 120 more credits. And ORU, they have a really cool Advantage program that does work with 9th and 10th graders, and we've increased by 50 credits. Now, we just talked about enrollment is down. So enrollment is down, but the number of college hours being taken is significantly up. So that's really exciting to report. And I shouldn't say enrollment is down. Enrollment has normalized. We have streamlined the process to enroll in area colleges. So before, if we look back just a couple of semesters, just that process was really icky for an EPIC student, trying to get a transcript, trying to apply to that college and get accepted and then enrolled. And we have been able to really streamline that and give just over-the-top supports to these students as they are walking through that process. So far this year, we've had 13 events for students, helping them specifically with specific colleges in the states. And we kind of have 9 big players. So when I say that, we have about 9 colleges that we have a big group of students at. But in the spring, our students were attending 33 out of the 54 colleges. So that's 33 colleges we're accepting grades from, 33 colleges that are potentially invoicing us, all of that. A couple of other quick things when it comes to concurrent enrollment are just we have really high pass rates. So I talked big about that TEL partnership and the number of students taking TEL courses. Our pass rate for spring semester was 85%, which is really great. And this
Say that again. So
Yep.
85% of students that took a concurrent course passed that concurrent course last spring. Is that what you just said?
Correct. For TEL, yes.
For Intel's all OC
Mm-hmm.
right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then this next, well, I'll get there in just a minute, but our EPIC Collegiate Academy students were even higher. Real quick, just to point out, we have 27 students who have 18 or more credit hours that we're working. They're either working towards an associate's degree independently or a +1, trying to achieve at least 1 year of college. And then you can see the other breakdown. And these are not current enrollments. These are credits they've already earned, and we're working them with them to get even more. Okay, EPIC Collegiate Academy. So those are our students who applied to be accepted into our program that's leading to an associate's degree with Oklahoma Christian. And so in this picture, you can see a group of our students who came in person for, they were Eagle for a day. They came, they got a student ID. They are real OC students. They learned about the degree programs. They had lunch, took a tour. It was a really, really incredible event. For ECA students, I wanted to point out this summer, the pass rate was 98%. So we're seeing a really high success for these students. And I know your goal is 1,000, and we're not quite there, but we right now have 300 students who have applied for the EPIC Collegiate Academy to begin this spring. And we're currently reviewing those applications and working through teacher recommendations and having conferences with them. And then, as Bart mentioned, this ECA partnership has really paved the way for some incredible scholarships and just opportunities for these students. All right, moving into career tech. As I said, we have 720 students taking career tech coursework, and there are 59 locations in the state. 48 of those we currently have students at. So again, that's 48 advisors we're working with, 48 campuses, receiving grades from 48, attendance notifications from 48. That's a lot. Most brick and mortars are dealing with 1. We have dozens of EPIC students who have been inducted into the National Honor Society, National Technical Honor Society, and we know of one student who's serving as an officer right now, which is great. This board recently approved an MOU for students to participate in the Tulsa Aerospace Academy program, and we are happy to report that we have one student in this program, and he is thriving and really enjoying this program. So it's a great win, and we hope to see more students participate in that. Hundreds of students last spring did graduate with industry certifications. It's difficult to track the exact number. We're working through that tracking piece a little bit. But Career Tech is a great opportunity that some students don't know prior to coming to EPIC that they can still go through Career Tech or take concurrent enrollment here at EPIC, and we're trying to continue to shout that to the rooftops so that they know that's an opportunity. And then again, working with 59 different locations in the state, we're gearing up right now for tours, showcases to get our students on campuses so they have just as fair of an advantage to get accepted into these programs as the students coming and touring from local brick and mortar districts. But instead of going to one campus, we're going to 59. All right, moving into internship work-based learning. This does count as one of the post-secondary opportunities, and this is actually our biggest area. EPIC students through this program have access to participate in both internal and external internships and work-based learning opportunities. And we have programs such as EPIC News Network, where students are learning to be student journalists. We have remote internships with multiple organizations in the state. And then right here through EPIC, we've got departments that students are working with. This semester, we launched virtual internships. We know that we have a high population or a population of students who, based on where they're at geographically in the state, what career path they're interested in, might not be where they live, or they might have a barrier with transportation or being medically homebound. And so we still want them to have access to post-secondary opportunities. So we came in and we've launched virtual internships, and it has been a huge success. And these students are exposed to their sector that they're interested in. They're working on capstone work, working with industry professionals, and we're really excited to see this program lift off. All right, moving into college planning. So we have someone on our team, and she is our college application scholarship counselor. And so she's working with our high school students. Our goal every month is to have at least 2 events for EPIC students. So far this year, we've exceeded that, and we've had 22 events where students were invited on campus, whether that was a college tour, a preview day, an info session, getting together to fill out FAFSA, meeting with Rose State because they have a scholarship program called Ticket to Rose, Tulsa Achieves. We have scholarship sessions, you name it. We have 8 more scheduled through December. Getting these kids exposed to their post-secondary opportunities. She is available on demand on Zoom all week. Students have access to just like if I were in a brick and mortar and I could walk down the hall, they can click a button and meet with her on demand. And we've actually had multiple EPIC graduates who came back and said, hey, I'm lost. I've graduated and I don't know how to find these supports. And she's serving those students as well, which is really cool. She is our counselor that handles all Common App forms and documents, so it's great to have one centralized person to handle the Common App forms and applications. We have had 7 virtual college events so far this year, and we have 6 more through December. And then, as I mentioned, just scholarships. Understanding how to pay for college can be really overwhelming, and so she is educating our students and staff and families every single day. And if you have a chance to look at our website, you would be very pleasantly surprised with the incredible resource of scholarships that she has found and put together for students. I think you were told last month that we had 4 national merit semifinalists, but I just wanted to walk you through. That's a pretty big process, and she walked them through step by step that process. We'll find out in February if we had any that were selected as a finalist, but that's a really rigorous process, and we're so proud of those students and the support that she provided. I just wanted to share a few other quick highlights. Our team provides monthly college and career readiness support nights. So once a month, our team is available in the evening. And last month, we had 60 families come and get on-demand support. They had questions about, how do I apply to college? How do I fill out a FAFSA? I need to look at my graduation checklist with someone. How do I enroll in concurrent? It's really incredible to see that support happen, and especially outside of work hours. And it's really rewarding because when these families get this support, they every single time are just like, I had no idea, you guys are amazing. And it's really great because I think equipping the students is one thing, but supporting the parent and the guardian through this process and helping them feel confident as they're supporting their teenager is really special too. He mentioned and showed you pictures from our college fair, but I just want to reiterate, that was incredible. It was our first ever time to do that. In this room, it was filled wall to wall with colleges. The excitement of our students coming with their parent to learn about the opportunities, I wish I could do that every single day. In this room, we had colleges. Out there, we had military and career techs. It was beautiful. And then our staff was available to answer questions. And then yesterday, we did that in Tulsa. And then today, we had a virtual event. Every single Friday, we have Find Your Future Fridays. So every single Friday, we invite industries from across the state to speak about their career field. Janice she was one of our 3 speakers to talk about finance last week. And students engage and get to ask real questions to real professionals that they likely wouldn't have access to do, where they possibly live. And so these are recorded, and we really love offering those. Essentially, we are focused on seniors having a plan for after high school. We want to ensure that all of our seniors fill out the FAFSA, no matter what that path looks like. And we want to help all of our qualifying Ticket to Rose and Tulsa Achieve students, even if they're not sure, apply for those programs. We have monthly newsletters, on-demand Zooms. Every single event we're planning is with their future in mind. And then one other thing I wanted to highlight is this spring, while our team really is focused on high school students, we don't want to miss out on our K-8 students. And so our team is going to put together a career week and really focus with those younger students, get them thinking about their future and hearing from industry professionals, going on some field trips, virtual and in person, and getting them engaged into the community. Essentially, as we look forward to what the board aspirations are, we get excited. I mean, you talk getting graduates prepared, and we smile and cry because we believe in it. And so I felt like this visualization would help you guys know where our heart is as we're looking towards next year. Is that we want students to graduate. I think for a while we've looked at that 83% if they're enrolled in a course. That's great. We know it goes beyond that. So we certainly want our students to graduate with either a degree, an associate's degree, or a full year of college, or even if just passing college readiness, right? But taking college coursework or receiving that certification from a career tech. But the third one just says certification, and what we're looking at is that high population of students who think that they might just go into the workforce, or maybe that they're going to go straight into the military, that when they graduate EPIC, they are ready for the workforce. And so we'd like to see them graduate with an industry certification. And so we are putting together plans for that, and we look forward to what that looks like next year and what can be approved. But we know that our students have a future, and we want to take it beyond just taking a next step course. And this is my favorite. I share it all the time, but education is the most powerful weapon, which you can change the world, and it definitely changed my life. I'd love to answer any questions that you guys have that I did not address.
I don't have a question. I'm just going to say that I'm an information nerd, and this makes me so excited. Very, very excited. I was sad a couple weeks ago talking to a friend in Texas. Her kids had the opportunity, they have brick and mortars in their area, that her kids have all started college as juniors. And this is like a normal charter school that just works that way. And I'm like, we don't have anything in Oklahoma. We only have a fraction of what's available
just a couple hours away. And so the fact that Epic is doing this is super duper exciting to me. Also, you just educated me when my son graduated from Epic in 2020. He started as a junior. The first time I saw Next Step on his schedule, I thought it was a class. So thank you for clarifying for me that that's the name of the program. I mean, I was told that his concurrent at Francis Tuttle covered it, but I was very confused and didn't know what it was. So I don't know. Maybe people know better, but thank you. I've had that. I didn't know for 2 years, and you just answered it.
I have a question here. So what's the difference, like 83%, what happened with the other 17%? Do we know a little bit about why they are not taking advantage of the program?
Nope, that's a great question. So first, I do want to highlight that when you're looking at that percentage, I know that the state has been a little off with accountability report cards. We still have an annual report, our post-secondary report, that we have to submit to the state. So that's how we know what qualifies. But if you do go back and look at the last report card where we were at 54%, we're higher than the state average. We've worked our way much higher than the state average, but I care about that 17%. It's what keeps me up at night. And so we strategically, our team focuses on who is not engaged in a next step. We work diligently to target, we have sessions for our staff frequently. We recently did a targeted campaign with principals to have them advocate for us, to target and look at these students with the teachers of what's happening, what is the best area for them, how can we educate the teacher to understand what is the best opportunity for them, and we will continue that all throughout the year. So we'll actually start looking at trend data of not just are they enrolled, is it on their schedule, but did they complete it, did they pass it? And thankfully we still have time. We still have spring semester. With Career Tech, the seeds you plant today, you actually see future tense in next year when they're applying and getting accepted. But I still have time for hundreds of students to still enroll in concurrent coursework this spring, as well as internships. And so we're not okay with just 83%. We want every single student to participate, both junior and senior year.
I'm just adding color to that. I'm, again, just thinking I've just got my small circle of personal experience. The other thing that's interesting about the other percentage, so there are some that just don't know, families don't know. A lot of kids just think you put the word college in something, it's too hard. They think you have to be advanced. But it's also an interesting dynamic when you look at a student who's an athlete, and like a year-round athlete. Epic makes it a little bit more possible, but it's sometimes that it's not all that some are just being lost and underachieving. If they are a hardcore year-round athlete, it's hard to do some of the extra academic things. So it's like, they're like, well, I'm gonna keep, family might be like, okay, well, he's good or she's good enough to get the college scholarship on this. We're just gonna do the normal high school stuff, keep the GPA high, and try to get an athletic scholarship. But those are some of the things that make it harder. So I'm just saying that just so you guys don't totally beat yourself up and think you're just dropping the ball on a percentage that's not there. Certain activity mixes just make it very difficult.
Absolutely. We see both ends of the spectrum, and that is one that we do see. Then oftentimes we're trying to get creative because we want to pinpoint what are their interests. So I want to go to college playing basketball. That's great. How can I turn that into an internship? If you're interested in athletics, how can I get you interning with a coach outside of your training time? Or you're already going to take Comp 1. If you take it at the high school level, it's a year-long course. For junior English, take Comp 1 now, and then you don't have to take that as a freshman. And it's a one-semester course versus a year-long. So we've got lots of ways to try to convince them. The other side is struggling students or students who don't have that transportation. Maybe they're a teen parent and their load is really heavy trying to graduate, but we still pour into them as well and try to share with them we are here to help them with their future, and we want them to be ready, more than ready, when they graduate high school for knowing what is my next step.
Couple-
wanted to add-
oh,
sorry,
please
just
go ahead.
wanted to add that is a wonderful program, and I'm so excited that you have an 83% already. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for this update, and I think it's important that we get an update on this every few months. So I see the last update you gave me, I don't think it was here, I think it was in this room though. A lot of progress, so thank you. And you have focused on the things that we talked about, which was increasing the communication and just getting more kids to take a shot. So I see those, and I see a lot of work done, I appreciate that. One question I have is, how are you using our 1,400 plus teachers to get, they are our sales force for you. That's your sales team to go, and if you look at it that way, they're your sales team to get you students in your programs, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer it kind of on both sides. So on the one hand, 100% they are.
How?
Regarding Epic Collegiate Academy.
How are they though? Like,
Well, they are our sales force because they
they're their
they
sales
are,
force, but are they selling? Do they even know they should be selling? Are they trained? That's really what I'm trying to get at. Like,
no,
I'm looking for Justin.
They do. So
There he is.
it's actually part of their performance framework as a teacher of meeting the metric of their junior or senior participating in Next Step. So they're engaged in that way, that they are trained to what Next Step is. We're advocating holding sessions and trainings for them all of the time. Next Step is not just this kind of over here. It begins with, one, the teacher training. It's a part of what they know, but two, it's integrated into the ILP. And I'm working with my business analyst, our department is, to make that better and more strategic in how that conversation is being had with the family at the very beginning of this school year. On the other side, though, our team is working really hard to lighten the loads of teachers, right? So they are the ones in front of the family, but it is really hard for a teacher to be an expert in, how do I apply to career tech? How do I enroll in concurrent? What credit on the high school side do I get if I take this theater arts class at my local college? What are my internship opportunities? So there's a catch there, because I want them to be that salesman, but I want them to bring them to us so that we can really support that student and the teacher not feel overwhelmed or have it take away from instruction.
Okay. All right, just a couple comments just for you to consider, because I'm trying to think, like, what would I want to be told if I was doing your job? Because I think you've got a really tough job, and it's super complex, and I know how hard this is. If I was in your role, I know one of my top priorities would be just that this 3,700 plus students that are going to graduate in 2023, how am I going to get at least 20 or 30 minutes of their time to discuss this life plan and this idea and get them engaged with this? So how are you getting them informed? And I think you've got a lot of work that's done into that. And then the second one is I think when we get the dashboard ready and move, I've said 1,000 associate's degrees, but I've also said, or something better. I'm hoping in the next few months that you and Bart and Justin and team can come back with, here's what we think the class of 2023 is going to look like, or 2024 maybe. And this is where it is now, and this is our plan to get there. And we think our seniors of 2024, we think 30% are going to choose to at least have one class, and here's why. We think 20% are going to graduate with an associate's degree, and here's why. But 100%, we have to know what they're going to go and do and have a life plan. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So one thing that I didn't get to cover tonight is our department oversees ICAP, Individual Career Academic Plan. It's a graduation requirement. We are having those conversations. I'm working with the tech team to streamline and be more efficient with tech needs. But last week, the days are running, recently, I presented to my direct supervisor and Janice essentially what you had asked. And it was kind of, let's initially talk through some of these things, and we have grand ideas. Like, we are ready,
Okay.
and so we just need to, strategically have those plans. I was hoping you would ask me, how can the board support you? Did you want to ask me that?
I have one question left. I have one question left.
Yeah.
How can the board support you?
Yeah.
How can the board support you and your team?
Yeah, so the first one is consideration of a directory. And this is something that my team feels really strongly about. So a brick and mortar can, and us, I mean, any school can choose to have a directory. There's pros and cons. Right now, local.
We don't have a directory? Is that what I'm
We
hearing?
do not. Legally, there are things that are beyond my pay grade to fully understand. But there are many schools in the state of Oklahoma who do have a directory. And what that means is their local college, their local career tech, all of the colleges have direct access to send that student information. And we think that that's important, and that could get information out to our students that they're not currently getting.
Do you
And
need
so
the board's help on that, or what? Why are you giving me that look? No, okay.
So that's number
All
one.
right.
Number two is just tech needs, and Roger is incredible. I don't know if you guys know that, but he's amazing, and we're just working.
He's okay.
So we have ideas. We have you want me to be able to tell you what percentage of our students are going to go into culinary arts. I'm limited right now in some of that scope, and I've got some tech answers that I've been talking to teams about for next year, and I'm excited and hopeful. As I mentioned, we have a high population of students who are doing internships and work-based learning. We want them to graduate with not just that experience on their resume, but a certification, an industry certification. And we've got platforms and programs, Google, there's other certifications out there and that we're looking at that we want our students equipped with when they graduate. But there's, so I'm proposing some of those things. So what you're saying, we've been working on. It's just when is the timing? When can we begin to roll some of those things out? And this year, for our seniors, ICAP was not a requirement. And just based on staffing and what we have the bandwidth, they have access to it, but we're not having those conversations. But by next year, it is a graduation requirement. And so we are having those conversations, but we have 2 people dedicated to that, and then we have to lean into teachers, so I have ideas to make it better. Ultimately, when it comes to capstones, we have ideas for, I want our students to have supply kits and hands-on material. If I live in a very rural part of the state and I can't drive in to go see what a chemical engineer does, but I can get the supply kit that kind of shows me and I can get my hands on some things, I want our students to have access to that. So I have ideas for future ready graduates.
All right. Thank you so much. Any more questions? Thank you. That was a great update. I know that was a lot of time and effort, so thank you. Okay. Up next is our at-risk student program update. Is Marty still? Okay, Marty's here. Good. Nicole, I know I should know this. Is your organization in instruction? We are. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
You have never met me before, so I'm so excited to be here at the very last, in between you and the door. So I have a great position.
You have plenty of time.
I have a captive audience, which
Yeah.
is what I need. All right, so my name is Marty Dugan. I have a lot of positive things to tell you about Epic. I hear a lot about what Epic's not doing.
Yeah.
I have people express their displeasure about what Epic's not doing. But I have a different story for you, and I want you to hear it. So I'm listening to all of this great information tonight, and to the gentleman about the skill set, my skill set that my teachers taught me was relationships and how to ask for help. I use it every single day at Epic. So I am wraparound services. Until June, I didn't exist. I've worked for Epic for 3 years in a different capacity. Since June, I've been on board wrapping my head around at-risk students program coordinator. I need a small catchphrase because that's a lot to say. I'll also say my name is Marty Dugan, and I cry a lot. I cry at the stories I hear every day. But as often as I cry with those stories, I cry that Epic gives me this job to do what I love. I have the resources, and it's why I feel I'm here. I don't think everybody can say that. So for me, very lucky. I brought my computer up here because as I have sat here, each one of my buckets has grown, and I've been doing requests and referrals as we've sat here. So I presented this on Wednesday. There were 81 needs surveys for individuals experiencing homelessness that had been identified to me, and 111 students. As I sit here now, I have 83 needs surveys filled out and 113 students experiencing homelessness. So let me tell you what that means. McKinney-Vento requires that each district have a representative. But that's not my job. My duty, my purpose to these kids is to coordinate and collaborate with all of these services to get them what they need. So we have three kinds of homelessness here at Epic. We have families who are displaced from their home because of fire, domestic violence, disability, changes in life, not being able to pay the rent, pandemic. We have lots of those families. We have lots of unaccompanied minors who are navigating homelessness on their own. They have no one. Then we have 6 friends of mine that live in a youth shelter in Oklahoma City. Just last week, I went to visit them. I saw that they were working and participating in their teletherapy sessions while I was there. It was so awesome. I walked in and he said, "The supply lady." Because my McKinney-Vento funding allows me to provide clothing, hygiene items, and school supplies. So he was proud to show me that he was using his school supplies, which was fantastic. What this doesn't show you, though, is this is 113 EPIC students. This doesn't include their family members, their siblings who aren't enrolled, or their caregivers who also live in the home. So safely, we can say there's over 300 people that I'm serving now, actually since July 20th, if I can be technical. These families experience homelessness, and they are able to have my services provide for them year-long. So if you've experienced homelessness and we assist you into housing, the trauma doesn't stop there. All of that trauma and loss and pain comes with you. So I commit to serving you for an entire year. The second bucket that I carry around with me for EPIC is I am the contact for our social services partnership. Until last year, we didn't have this. And what I hear daily, "Marty, I didn't know you were here. You do this?" So here's what I do. When I have a family who's experiencing food insecurity, lack of medical care, maybe I have a family that can't go to work because they don't have childcare for the younger siblings, which means older siblings are staying home to take care of the younger siblings. Oklahoma, as you know, is experiencing a housing shortage in general. I have folks who have no homes. Transportation. If you don't have a car to get to work, you don't have a car to take your kids to school. This morning, I sent 2 bus passes for adults and a child's bus pass electronically to a phone so they could go to school. They've been showing up at one of our places at 6 a.m., sleeping till the doors open, and then the dad walks to work. That is not acceptable. That's one of the small ways we help. And then we have something for our social services specialists called Care Portal Requests. It's a statewide group of churches that have said, "We will help you fill the gap." Once we have an open ticket, we can make requests. I've seen transportation solved, utility bill pay assistance, furniture. We work with the tribal communities to provide. So great, we found you a house, but you have nothing because you left domestic abuse and all of your things were in a storage unit that was broken into, and you literally have nothing. So I'm talking about a very different group of EPIC students that we haven't heard about yet tonight. But what I'm proud to say is, well, I got ahead of myself, hold on. So when someone identifies as experiencing homelessness, the very first thing I did when I took office in June That was kind of a joke, not really. I devised a tracking form so I knew immediately, early identification to track them. And the ticket system had to be improved so I could long-term track their progress and their relationship with Epic. Now I have accountability for these families. I see when the ticket was made and what we did about it. So then I have a fun job. Amazon Prime Delivery allows me to ship clothing, school supplies, and hygiene items to families experiencing homelessness. I have had families who experience house fires and lose everything. And within 48 hours, they have clothing and hygiene items. And you think school supplies. Do you know why? Because the moms and dads that call me in tears are afraid that if they don't log in and do their work, they're going to get behind. So these aren't families that are in these circumstances because they chose to be. Last week I had a mama call me. She's living in a storage unit. No heat, no air. She said, "Miss Marty, can you help me get their computer so they don't get in trouble?" Yes, ma'am, I can. So we reach out to these families. We assist them in all the different ways that they're there. We continue our relationship with them. A lot of these homeless needs surveys correlate on this social service request. So often these folks need food assistance, medical care, assistance finding housing. Highly mobile folks, folks in trauma, folks without technology, don't log on to the local housing authority and fill out their application. They need a human. That's where my social services folks come in. I have 5 brilliant specialists who there's a partnership between DHS and us. I don't know if you guys have seen that on our website. It says social services right on the front. When we have a family who self-discloses or a teacher who identifies these needs, our process is simple. Again, accountability. I look at every single ticket that comes in. Wednesday when I did this, we had 333 requests. We now have 337 as I sit there, and we have 70 open. That means we have closed or resolved the others, but for 70 families, we are actively working to find out what they need. This week we helped some parents apply for jobs because they didn't have the ability to fill out a resume. So we helped them do that, and we helped transport them to their job. So we're crossing their fingers that they got the interview and they get the job. I couldn't do what we do without that collaboration. The whole point of McKinney-Vento is that you collaborate outside of your box. So the fact that Epic had the sight to think, we have some families struggling. We need this partnership. For 337 families, you've changed their lives. Today I was almost late because I met a grandma in a parking lot to give her some clothes for her children. So the way we get things is through Amazon. I'm utilizing our 1,400 teachers for direct delivery for interaction when they meet. And if those things can't be done because they don't feel comfortable or they can't do it, I load it up in my trusty car and I drive it down the road and I do home visits. One of my specialists and I, last week, it was so exciting, we helped a family that had escaped domestic violence. Her husband had lit the house on fire. It was herself and her 4 kids, and she's 6 months pregnant. I was on the phone when the police were there. She said, "I got your number from my teacher. I heard you could help me." We moved her out of the storage unit and upstairs to the 2nd floor, and she's living safely with her 4 children, and she has food, and they are now in a place where they can try to be successfully educated. If we don't meet these needs first, none of that other stuff matters. So my job is to be the resource they can trust and follow through with the things I say we're going to follow through with. And so seeing the humanity every single day puts in perspective that these families have left brick and mortar, they've left their homes, they've left their jobs, They've left everywhere, and they're invisible. But they're coming forward in droves to say, I need help. My third bucket, and it's a big bucket, is Alliance Mental Health. We have behavioral counseling referrals. So this, I need you to hear me on this. This is so exciting. Okay, so, no, this is really cool. We have 60 licensed therapists assigned to us. They provide free teletherapy sessions for you if you're having behavioral counseling needs. Something is impeding your academic progress. But I'm not even gonna stop there. I'm gonna tell you that it's free to you. So if you have insurance, great. If you don't, great. I'm getting you the therapy you need. So what we've done is we've taken people who live in towns with no stoplight, no grocery store, no gas station, no mental health provider, and we've put it in your living room for free. We've also reduced the stigma of you seeing a mental health professional in your small community where everybody knows that person. Anybody from a small town in here where everybody knows everything you're doing? Okay, that's a big factor for lack of participation in mental health services because of the stigma. We've removed that. In the last 60 days, while I sat there, in the last 60 days, we have 374 referrals. In the last 6 months since I started, we've had 612. So the very cool thing that you might not know is part of this MOU is our crisis response. Securely is a software that if any student makes a search about suicide, self-harm, death, they're immediately referred. Then the teacher is notified. What we can provide for the family in that instant is we have access to a 24-hour hotline through Alliance Mental Health where a human answers the phone. Because 48 hours is simply not enough for me to say somebody will reach out to you. So it's incredible to me that we have chosen to put this in someone's living room. I grew up in foster care. My parents are addicts. They were abusive. I have been homeless. I never had access to therapy. It's an incredible gift that we're giving our students. The additional things that roll into my plate every day, I feel like I have one of those lunch trays with the little squares on it.
But they keep getting smaller and multiplying.
And you do have less time left with me than you started with, so you can take a deep breath. I'm almost done. Okay? One of the things that I'm proud of is that my specialists and I can assist with truancy efforts for our BLC sites. If I can get the kiddos to school, mom and dad have a chance to work. If they have a chance to work, it changes their lives. We have a growing population of teenage parents who are expecting now or coming to EPIC with children. We have to care about them differently. We can help when we have those open requests to help you with child care resources. Very often, they let us know that they're expecting before their family knows. We can guide them to prenatal care. Those choices that won't have to be a dropout of school. Recently, I've been assisting folks who are entering or leaving the juvenile system in Oklahoma. We have 26 facilities where these individuals may go. There is little transcript for how do you help a friend who has a parole officer enroll in your ILP. They call me, Marty, what can we do? One of the things that I never imagined that I would be doing is informing families that there's pandemic funding for their family members who have passed away due to COVID. We help plan funerals. A big part of my life is the free and reduced lunch program confusion across our state. They believe that I'm the person in charge of that. I'm not, by the way. But what I have been able to do is give them some information and give them the ability, if they feel they were left off that list, to go to the State Department to have their eligibility reviewed. One of the other things that I do is I can assist with immediate enrollment for students experiencing homelessness. When you've fled your home or been kicked out of your home or have a dysfunctional home, you don't often carry your birth certificate and your shot record and your transcript around with you. These are documents you need to have. So I can assist with immediate enrollment and then also getting those documents for you for the rest of your life. How do I do this? I literally go to every single meeting ever. I hear daily, Marty, I didn't know you were here. So it's my job to go to every single MDI principal meeting I am invited to, show them where the ticket request is, provide resources to teachers. I have an internet channel. We have resource links on the main page to make it very easy. I've attended the BLC trainings twice this year. I presented last week here. I have attended the family engagement days. I'll literally do anything to reach our families. So I'm just so grateful that you had the foresight to include this as part of your package to help families. I'll try not to cry and I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Oh my God, there's so much on this one.
I do have a question now.
Oh, go
Are
ahead.
you still thinking?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So we all know because of the stigma, who's reporting that they're homeless is probably a drop in the bucket.
Yep.
Do we have any plans around how to help people just get comfortable and vulnerable enough?
Oh yeah, there's a plan.
Yeah.
So part of the federal programs monitoring that's coming up on December 6th is I have to show what EPIC is doing now that they have me. And so there are simple things like translating materials in more than one language, posting things in our public BLC places, going out to homeless shelters, because that's where I go. There is such stigma that they won't tell us that they're experiencing homelessness, or they won't tell us they need help because in their lives it has meant a DHS referral and someone has come to take their children away.
Yeah.
And so every day I work really hard to say it's a social service request. Now, this morning I made a DHS referral because it was out of my realm. So while I'm comfortable doing that for families that need it, our job is to keep families together. But there's such a stigma. Often it takes, sometimes I have to talk to families 2 or 3 times before they trust me. I'm pretty sure everyone in Oklahoma has my cell phone number. Because I give it to them. Because if you call me and leave a message and you say, Miss Marty, I'm living in a storage unit. I don't know anyone else, but I have your number. My purpose is to call you back. And you're going to keep my number. So we're working on awareness. I'm working on it with my teachers. Recently, I had a teacher say, well, he doesn't do any work, I'm going to drop him. My friend lives in a shelter. He wasn't doing his work because his MiFi was stolen. And he can't go into a coffee shop or a McDonald's and steal the Wi-Fi, because if you're not a paying customer, you have to leave. So at risk is such a relative term. For our families, it's the most risk. And so a lot of my job is teacher education of, they can't fathom poverty or homelessness or somebody breaking into their things and stealing them. So a lot of my job is to remind my teachers that it's not the standard of living that you would prefer them to have, but it's what they have. So our job is to make it better. And the only way to do that is through tolerance and compassion.
Ginger, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I would like to connect with you personally after the meeting or whenever, because we work in similar areas, and I'd like to just talk about it. I'm also interested in EPIC being able to develop some metrics so we can identify students without them having to report necessarily. so that we know.
Currently, the identifier is on our enrollment application. And it's there because if you click homeless, you get immediate enrollment, and that's one of the barriers to education. But I agree.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be a much more dignified process to allow us to know that they're experiencing difficulty.
Yes, so I'd like for us to talk about that and what we can do about that, and then what metrics we're going to use for our own success as a school with populations that are very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to include the refugee populations in that, and see what we can do, because another very vulnerable population that we might be able to serve in some way, so.
I have been meeting with the State Department on that very issue every Tuesday.
Okay.
Thank you,
We'll
Marty.
follow up.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, my husband's a pastor. He says count to 5, and if nobody says anything, put the microphone down.
I'm here. No.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. This is wonderful what you're doing. I don't know how you do so many things, because emotionally, especially. I feel like there's lots of things that we can do. One of them, an idea that I have that I don't know if, I feel like you already have too much, so I don't know if you might need somebody else. But anyways,
Like a clone? Yes.
But one thing is, if we could have in our website, like, we have so many students and so many families and board members who have connections that we have, if we could include like a job opportunity link, or, so that families could search for job opportunities. I know for sure that currently there are many job opportunities. Companies are complaining that they don't have enough people. They don't know what's happening. It might be the checks that they're getting for the kids, but or unemployment. So there are job opportunities, and it's great if we could have these as a network opportunity. And of course, as you were saying, help them. You are already doing that, helping them to get what the resources or the tools they need to apply. The other thing that and the reason why I wanted to see if there is it might be another position or something that we might consider in the future, but it's somebody who could work with you, but to prevent all of this, because you're like turning off fires, but there is so much that we can do to prevent what's going on, and one of them, of course, is financially savviness. I feel like that's something that's important for our kids to learn. Unfortunately, many families invest their money in things that are not really important, and then they find themselves in this economical crisis. So I feel like this is something that we might need to include. I don't know how we can work this. I'm just giving ideas that I have in my head. There is a program that I know that is, I'm trying to think, well, I'll say it in a minute. Other thing is so the teenager parents are increasing, right?
I'm sorry?
You have noticed that teenager parents are increasing? So
Yeah.
What can we do? It's not, you have plenty of work, but I feel like, I don't know if there is somebody among the EPIC staff, or how can we do this, but what can we do to help these kids so that they understand that this is not just a game, or this is not just something fun or cute, I just want to have a baby, or I'm in love, and so that they understand that life is very, very difficult, especially if you're a young parent. So I don't know, I'm just thinking.
I've had some conversations with my colleagues right over there at that table. We have a situation right now with some folks, and so we know there's a need.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it begins with awareness and education for them and the family, but none of that can happen until we take care of their needs and let them know they're safe for telling us.
Of course. No, I'm meaning for the other
But
families.
after that,
Yeah.
we'd like to do a support group or monthly meetings to help them. Parenting's hard, and golly, at 16, we'd
I
like.
think Yeah, I think there's a broader question. I think it's a great question for the board on what the school is going to do with that metric. Just in the interest of time, let's go ahead and wrap this
Yeah.
up. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Appreciate it. Just, my comments on that subject, and then we'll move along. One, I think this is an incredible opportunity for us, because we've been talking a lot about this, for us to partner with traditional public schools. One of the issues that I know, especially foster children, but I'm assuming this is true for homeless children as well, is just the following of stinking transcripts and losing the story, right? If you're a foster child, you're in and out of these different schools, who's telling your story? So I think there's an opportunity for EPIC to be like the permanent, if you will, school for some of these foster children. But when they get into the traditional public school, because that's where they need to be on a day-to-day basis, it's a partnership with us in that traditional public school. So we provide some core services. We have a teacher that follows that student. So I'd like you to explore that more. And I just want to say that I thought there were several examples that Marty gave that really illustrate the attitude we have to have at this school at every level of the organization. And to me, it's this simple. If a student has a problem, we have a problem. If a student has a problem, we have a problem. So if a student doesn't have a house, we got a problem. If a student doesn't have food, we got a problem. Students being abused at home, we've got a problem. Student not doing their homework, we've got a problem. Student doesn't have an engaged parent, we have a problem. So, zero tolerance for delegating blame to other adults outside of our school for reasons maybe our students aren't being as successful as they can. So I know I kind of beat that one a lot, and I'm going to continue, and I make no apologies for it. So with that said, Marty, thank you. Please make sure you're getting a lot of rest. Help is on the way. I really mean that. Like I can see it. You're going to burn out, and you're 3 months into this. There you are. So help is on the way, because we have wraparound services as a department, but this school will be wraparound services. Okay. Thank you. How about consent docket? Anybody want to do that? Let's do some consenting on the docket. Okay. The following items concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at board meetings. So again, I won't read all that. Any board member can pull any one of these out and vote on its own. So you have that authority. Feel free to use that wisely. I've been through all these. I'm good. Anybody have any questions from the board meetings, board members? If not, I would give it 5 more seconds. Is that what we're doing? Okay, I would entertain a motion for the consent docket. Second?
Second.
JP? Janet?
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez.
Yes.
Ginger Casper. Yes. Wywana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
And John Tatum.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes consent docket. Now we're going to go in executive session. Consider a motion and possible vote to convene an executive session to discuss pending claims or action with board's attorney, and where disclosure information would violate confidentiality requirements concerning. So 2 subjects we're going to talk about when we go into the executive session, all matters related to the former management company, as well as compliance with the statewide virtual charter school board settlement agreement, which we are looking to amend. And so we're just talking about some of those minor amendments, and then we'll come out of that and give you guys an update on executive session. So we're going to have to do a vote here. It's 8:10. Before we do that vote, 8:20, we're going to meet in executive session. And where is that going to be? Same place? Is that what we did last time?
Nearby.
Room 14. Follow Janet. Janet will point us in the right direction. Okay. In the executive session, it will be board members, Bart, Brandon, Sam, Lori. Anybody else we need in there? Janice? Anybody else? Okay. Yes, that's it. Okay. Okay. Make a motion to adjourn or convene an executive session. Catherine? Oh. What am I supposed to do here?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn to executive session.
That's what I meant. Yes, that's what I was trying to get to happen.
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran.
Yes.
Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Waiwana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
Okay, 8:20, room 14, and for those of you not going executive session, if it's more than 30 minutes, we'll try to get you an update. I really think it should be less than 30 minutes, but you never know. 8:20, see you guys there.
Got it with my coat and left purse, thank you.
I know, it's good. Hers is good. Hers has the blue and gold sausage in it.
Ooh, I didn't
Yeah,
know. So
yeah.
that's what that good extra
Uh-huh,
kick is.
it is.
I think I need more tea. I'm super thirsty.
I am too. It's this room.
Is
It's
that
just
what
so
it is?
dry.
Because you
It's
know,
just
I
so
had
dry.
the tea, the big bottle.
I know.
Then I needed another one in there. Is that what it is, the room?
You're hydrated.
Sounds good. Good stuff.
Are we ready? Okay, let's get moving. We have board members here. Where's Catherine?
She's good. She's here.
Okay.
All right, we'll need a motion to acknowledge return to open session.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez. Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Raiwana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
And
Board members Paul Campbell, Catherine Sino, Ginger Casper, Catalina Beltran Dominguez, Waiwana, Waiwana, I gotta say that right, Waiwana Montgomery, Renee was not there. John Tatum, Superintendent Bart Banfield, Janice Wynn, Brandon Webb, Sam Fulkerson, Lori Windland were the only ones present in executive session for the purpose of discussing pending investigations, claims, and actions with the board's attorney, and where disclosure of information would violate confidentiality requirements pursuant to Oklahoma Meetings Act 25, Section 304, B4 and B7. No action was taken.
can you add Rebecca Nolte to that list?
Rebecca
Nolte.
Rebecca Nolte.
Thank you. Any board member comments? Nope. I consider a motion to adjourn, and then we can jump into
So moved.
Second.
JP.
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez.
Yes.
Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Raiwana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to the Epic Blended Learning Center board meeting. You guys ready? Just go straight into this next one? Okay. Let's start. Janet, call the meeting to order, please.
Paul Campbell.
Here.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez. Here. Ginger Casper.
Present.
Waiwana Montgomery.
Here.
Catherine Steno.
Here.
John Tatum.
Here.
Renee Porter is absent.
Public comments?
No, there were not any.
Yeah, just double check before we move on.
No public comments.
Okay, let's go to Superintendent Spotlight.
Paul, we're going to start our blended meeting with a superintendent spotlight outlining ENN, the Epic News Network. And so this is a group that we started a couple years ago that is laser focused on all things journalism. Everything from writing to photography to, you can actually see they do an actual newscast. So these are students that are interested in this and that we are providing an opportunity for them. So this is the spotlight for our blended charter. This is ENN.
And so whenever we were given this framework to say, we want, a journalism program and we want kids to be prepared for their next step. Okay, so that's what we started out with, and I think we continue to grow on that.
Good journalism is all about storytelling, and there's a reason behind that story.
We want to be able to give them the skills that will get them into college and prepare them for that, but also prepare them for the real world.
We teach them to craft their writing. We teach them to take photography seriously, to take video seriously. And here's what you can do with those skills, even if you don't want to be a journalist.
Scott and I kind of started, like I said, we started with this idea of multimedia journalism, but then next thing you know, kids are really interested in doing podcasts and learning how to do that, and we had some basic setup. We've expanded that already.
We have lots of kids that have gone through this program that they didn't end up taking journalism classes, or that was maybe a minor and not a major, but I hear back from them all the time about, my teachers love my writing because it's so much better than other students. Well, that's because we worked their tails off and made them write and rewrite and rewrite.
Well, I've always been a photographer at heart, and I've never had an outlet where I could shine and where I could express my photography skills. And I also wanted to be able to grow as a photographer.
We do a newscast weekly, so every Tuesday is when we record and film, and then it usually is up by Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around there.
As I continued doing the classes, I realized that I could grow and I could improve, and by the end of my first year, I was extremely impressed by how much I grew.
I absolutely love everything about it. I really like photography. Didn't think I would, but I absolutely love it.
And it's helped my personality and confidence a lot.
But I'm a lot better at writing and stuff, and it's a lot easier for me to read something real quick and then turn around and write a report on it instead of just having to read it over and over and over again.
I plan to go get a graphic design degree at OSU, and someday, maybe down the road, start a photography business. Now, since going to ENN, I actually enjoy writing. In all my college classes, I get 100s in my writing projects. I'm very proud of myself that I've grown that much.
Our goal is to win all the awards. Our goal is to take on those big name schools that are used to winning all these awards. And we want to take this little ragtag team that we've built and say, guess what, we came out of nowhere and now we're doing, we're doing great stuff and our kids are getting recognized. So yeah, we want to win all of them.
Yes. So that's Phil Cross and Scott Carter. Give them a hand. And for those that you don't know, Phil Cross, if you can, just stand up for us real quick and wave to the group. Yes, give him a hand. Phil and Scott do a tremendous job with those students, and if you haven't seen, once we do these newscasts, they actually get released out on social media so our families and everybody can appreciate what's going on, teaching these students real-life world skills that they can take with them that will transfer not only into college, but into the workforce. And so thank you, Phil, thank you, Scott, and thank you, Sean, for putting that video together. You do a tremendous job, too.
Yeah, you do. You all do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Some media think we're newsworthy. I don't, but I would love it if they covered us. I don't know if they're interested in us, but that's media that I would really like to be part of. And that's not just Blended Learning Center, right? ENN is for all. It's just, all. You're just presenting it here. Okay,
right.
Making sure I didn't misunderstand that. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Can't wait to hear more about them.
It's awesome. Yeah, I've actually interviewed with them, Paul.
Yeah.
And they asked some really tough questions. I'm going to be honest with you. So they're tough.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, let's move on into governance. And I think the only thing we have left to do on this for BLC is board member terms, right? We need to do that vote? Okay.
Correct.
Ginger, do you remember the motion you made? Did you write it down?
I did not.
Make a motion that the board chair delegate the terms to each board member initially.
That's right.
I knew there was one more word.
Second?
Second.
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez.
Yes.
Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Wywana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
And just let the minutes show that everything else was the same presentation as before, like we always do. And I bet you there's a way, Bart, for you and I, we're probably getting close to the time, if not ready now, where we could get all the presentations done at the beginning for both schools. And then this literally is just us going through and doing this as a formality,
Sure.
if you will. So let's get into leadership. Do you have any updates there? Or are we good on that?
We talking about superintendent report?
Yes.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
we actually do. Sean, if you don't mind to pull it up. So this is superintendent's update for November 17th, 2021. Here's your enrollment dashboard for our blended. This is as of November the 15th. You can see last year at this time, 23,154 students as of our first quarter statistical report for our blended learning charter. This year we are at 15,579, so you can see a similar decreased trend for both our one-on-one school and our blended school. This is the post-pandemic attrition that we were talking about in the previous meeting. We're seeing something very similar for Oklahoma and Tulsa counties as well. Grad rates, this is Oklahoma City BLC and then our Tulsa BLC. You can see the grad rates for our blended kids. 52%, 53%, 58% in Oklahoma City, and then in Tulsa, 51%, 53%, and 57%. So we still have work to do. The trend is similar to what we saw in our one-on-one meeting, still not where we want it to be, but we are making progress. Next slide. So BLC update, I won't go through all of this, just to give you an update that they are laser focused on real-time intervention for our kiddos. So we're focused on targeted instruction and intervention based on the benchmarks that the kids took in the fall. So at our blended learning charters and our blended learning centers, we're using wraparound services. Marty did an incredible presentation, I thought, in our first meeting. So we're now recording attendance and how to use the new PowerSchool gradebook. And one of the things that we did, obviously, that's different is people think virtual school, but when you actually have physical building locations where kids go to, you have to, in some ways, treat it similar to what you would a traditional brick and mortar. And one of the things that we did this last couple weeks is we've actually focused on security of the buildings. And so we brought in an FBI threat assessment team. They presented to a group of BLC administrators at our Stonegate facility here in Oklahoma City. The sites are going to be implementing crisis teams to proactively evaluate potential violence and intervene wraparound services for students and staff before the crisis situations arise. And all sites will receive training on emergency protocol and reunification procedures. The training will be ready for, it'll be for our faculty and administrators only. But it's something that when you have buildings and you have students that are coming to those buildings 5 days a week, you have to prepare for. So, next slide. This is the face of EPIC right here. So if you want to know who you are volunteering your time for, this is the face of the children at EPIC. So this is Red Ribbon Week. Our BLC celebrated Red Ribbon Week, drug-free, looks like me, and had a Spirit Week to show our students what drug-free looks like. And so just beautiful children. And also wanted to let you all know, just give you an update, we're sending out EPIC Up swag. So we have a theme this year, EPIC Up. And so as part of our ongoing EPIC Up campaign, we're rewarding our students who have successfully met their pledge. So they set a goal to level up, and our first shipment went out on Monday. And so you can see the EPIC t-shirts, or as my sons call them, EPIC swag, that is being shipped out to our students for successfully completing their goal. And I believe that is it. Thank you.
Nice job. Janice?
Good evening again, board members. This is the financial update for Epic Blended Learning Charter for November 17th, 2021. That should say September. I don't know how I managed to do that. I apologize. I will fix that. The numbers are correct. Cash balance at the bank, 12.9 million, 9.2 million in fund balance, and then there is your revenue and expenses, and then your current fund balance for the year. 72.59, so we're trending right where we expected to be for instructional. Remember, blended's always going to be a little bit lower because of the facility expenses that are not able to be coded to instruction. The learning fund slides are combined for both districts, so I won't spend time going through those. We'll get right to the meat of what I need you to vote on tonight for blended. The budget report for blended looks a little bit different than the budget report for Epic One. Epic Blended is expecting to have an increase in their overall revenue for the year. I'm projecting a very slight increase in state revenue due to an increase in the factor rate of the per student funding that we received from the State Department at the beginning of the school year. And then our federal revenue is adding ESSER 2 and also some other federal reimbursables in the title programs and in some other initiatives that are being worked on by the Federal Programs Department. And then our carryover, the original budget was based on our estimated carryover balance, and I've adjusted it to our actual carryover balance. So that nets out to an increase of 14.3 million in revenue. So we're going to increase our spending in blended by 14.3 million to recognize that increase in revenue. So I'm asking tonight for you to approve an increase from $124,694,538 in spending to $139,074,893 for Epic Blended Learning Charter.
Thank you. What's the net change when you combine the two? So we're asking for an increase of 14.
It was 49 million decrease in funding for Epic One, and this is 14. So you're looking at 35 million net between the two.
I gotcha. Okay.
Decrease. If you were to combine them, which I do not do.
Understand that. I know you don't.
But since you asked the question, I did the math. Just right here. I have not done that before.
Wonderful.
We're glad you don't do that.
Yes, please don't do that. I like the way you do it.
I only do it mentally. Okay. Is that all you need to do?
Yep, that's all.
Okay.
If there are any questions, otherwise I would ask that you would approve this revised budget for Epic Blended, and then I will send it to the county.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the revised budget.
Second.
Janet?
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez. Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Roy Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
Okay.
John Tatum.
Oh,
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Nicole and Marty, we don't need that, right? The same presentation? Okay. Same. Consent docket is the same, so if I could get a motion to approve the consent docket.
Motion to approve.
Second?
I said second.
Catherine.
One of them, did you?
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran
Yes.
Dominguez. Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Roy Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine
Yes.
Steno.
Sorry. Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, now we have to go in executive session. We do have to do this. Consideration and possible vote to convene an executive session to discuss those things.
I move that we go to executive session.
Second?
Second.
Was it John?
Stino, second it.
Catherine.
Catherine?
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez. Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Roy Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna walk in the break room, make a couple jokes, and then we're gonna come back here and finish up.
so good too.
Okay. Can we get a motion to acknowledge the board's return to open session?
I make the motion.
Second.
Janet? Ginger, second.
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran
Yes.
Dominguez. Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Rowana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Yes.
Executive session minutes compliance statement, board members Campbell, Steno, Casper, Beltran Dominguez, Montgomery, Tatum, along with Superintendent Banfield, Denise Weiss, Brandon Webb, were the only ones present in executive session for the purpose of discussing pending investigation, claims, or action with the board's attorney, and where disclosure of information would violate confidentiality requirements pursuant to the Oklahoma Meeting Act 25, Section 307, 4B, B4, and B7. No action was taken.
Rebecca Nolte? No, she wasn't. I'm sorry, I forgot. She wasn't here for this one. She left. Talking to Brandon out there, we're going to clean this up too. So we have all these people here. We don't need to do this. So we didn't need that executive session. So going forward, let's make sure we're only doing those that are appropriate. Any board member comments? I only did about 30 minutes.
You're not even funny.
I know that. Any comments? I would like to have the final comments, and I have like 60 seconds. Catalina, do you have anything to say? John? Nope. Anybody else? I'm giving you 5 seconds. Decide.
I'm excited about what we're doing. It's epic.
I like that. That was wonderful. Good work. Really good work. I know we dig into a lot of details, and I see the momentum. I feel it. I see it. Of course, there are things that I'm not happy with, but that's just me. And we'll figure all those things out. But overall, I'm like super inspired. I'm glad I'm volunteering for this personally. So 6 months in, I'm really glad to be part of this team. Feel honored to work with you guys alongside of this. Really do. And lastly, I've been waiting for this, and so it was just really meaningful for me. Today, I saw a group of individuals that really started talking about our aspirations, and I see us talking through those lenses. Nicole's presentation just had a lot of what our aspirations were in it. Marty is living, breathing aspirational statement, and a lot of that we're trying to do. Your presentation, Bart, Janice's, we're starting to formulate this. It's a vocabulary, but it's more importantly, it's just this philosophy about students first, and we're not takers anymore, is what we had here. We really are trying to give back to the community, and I'm just super proud to be part of this. So nice work. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Paul Campbell.
Yes.
Catalina Beltran Dominguez.
Yes.
Ginger Casper.
Yes.
Rowana Montgomery.
Yes.
Catherine Steno.
Yes.
John Tatum.
Maybe. Yes.
That was a yes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the Epic employees that stay so late on each of these. Really appreciate you. And the chili. Who won?